and frustrating Monday show. A show in which the Chiefs are still the number one seed in the NFL and now a tiebreaker over the Miami Dolphins and still home games to go against Buffalo and Cincinnati to then hold those tiebreakers if they were to win those games. So a lot of season left to be played, but the Chiefs hit the bye week sitting at 7-2. And one of the things we talked about before the season, at least one of the things that I talked about, is we were assessing the season and giving our predictions or, the schedule, etc. I said if they can hit the bye week at 7-2, you've got to feel really good about the Chiefs because the schedule is more backloaded, that you don't want to have a letdown here or there that you're like, okay, that's a surprise loss. Now the losses came in different places than I thought they would, but just the overall, what's the record? What do they look like heading into the bye? They don't look like what I thought they would look like heading into the bye. The record is in good shape because they're still the number one seed in the NFL. And Jacksonville and Baltimore still sitting with those two losses as well. And we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But 913-381-0810 is the phone number to be a part of the show. 913-381-0810. We will talk with Field Yates today, our NFL insider from ESPN. He'll join us coming up at noon. And then we got Learn Funniest Best before the show is over as well, as Mick Schaefer is flying back from Germany. So we asked if he could maybe get the phone on the flight.
Yeah.
To join us.
It's the thing they do, I think, right?
And he decided not to.
Oh, planes are pretty loud. Okay, Mick. This show's pretty important.
Ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous.
Get some noise-canceling headphones. Figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. They're noise-canceling headphones. You're being loud. Thank you. You'd hear that from Mick.
I don't think we would hear anything from Mick. I really do think it would just...
No, maybe. What? Is it my turn? Is it my turn? No.
Did you see the Chiefs plane flew by the Northern Lights?
No, I didn't see
Matt
that.
McMullen tweeted out a picture, and I think Donovan
awesome.
Smith posted it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing the lights will be turned out on Mick's return trip.
Did they see Santa getting ready?
Well, they wouldn't have. I certainly hope they wouldn't have tweeted about it if they did.
That's right.
We cannot be putting Santa on blast. He's very busy right now.
We don't want to dock Santa at the North Pole.
Cannot dock Santa. Look, we know we have a general idea. The North Pole's a big place.
It's a very big pole.
There's a lot of snow.
There is.
What was that about Santa's big pole?
So that is how the show lines up. And then tonight, 5:30, KU pregame as college basketball gets underway tonight with KU, K-State, Mizzou all in action. KU taking on North Carolina Central, Missouri, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and then K-State, the big one, coming up at 9 o'clock tonight on TNT against USC. So a fun opening night for college basketball. I think college basketball actually starts now. I think there's a game that tipped off 10 minutes ago.
Well, and USC just fired their defensive coordinator. I mean, that's going to have some real repercussions.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Lincoln Riley's going to be able to. They'll probably score some points.
Is Avery Johnson going to touch the ball, do you think?
I don't know. Tyler Perry is, though.
Plays a lot of roles, I hear.
He's going to play a lot of roles for that team. All right, let's how the show lines up. Let's get into the show. Let's talk about assessment from the game and what the takeaways are from the game yesterday morning. And an odd feel because this is a total aside. When I was watching the noon window games, I felt like it was like 3:30 or 4 o'clock or 4:30. And I'm like, look at the clock. I'm like, oh, wow, it's still one. It's not even the witching hour yet. My whole day is thrown off, but it's awesome because it felt like while we fell back an hour, it felt like we fell back another 3 hours.
Yes.
Which
was awesome until it was dark before Sunday Night Football kicked off, and it was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Is there a 9 p.m. game tonight? What happened?
What are we doing? Are we on Eastern time again? What took place?
It was Bills Bengals, so it was worth it. I don't know if it's going to be worth it next week.
Yeah, probably not. So that's a total aside.
But you're right. I'm with you.
But my assessment from the game is I'm watching it from the first drive to then the final score. The feels, especially from offense, goes from, okay, they're figuring some things out. Here we go. Last week's performance was a dud, and they looked smooth on that opening drive. Smooth. They faced 1 third down. Third and short, they picked up 10 yards with the throw to Sky Moore. That was it. Everything else, first down, second down, first down, second down, first down, second down. third down, first down incomplete in the touchdown to Justin Watson, second down touchdown to Rashee Rice, get it right back. So that was great. And the defense coming out there getting yet another stop and another stop, and the Chiefs having opportunities to go and score and put points on the board. And the whole first half just felt like the Chiefs were playing at the bottom of the hill, and the Dolphins were playing at the top of the hill, yet the Chiefs' defense was there to continue to stop, and then the Dolphins would punt it down to the bottom of the hill again, and the Chiefs would have to battle back because that's what the first half field position was like. But I come out of that game going, this is who the Chiefs are. Let's adjust our scope, adjust the sight, and understand what they are moving forward. This is a team that is balanced. This is a team that has a really, really good defense. Top-notch, potential top of the NFL defense. It's not just can this defense be top 10? Yeah, they're going to be top 10. Can they be top 5? Yeah, they can be top 5. Can they be one of the best or second? Yes, they can. Absolutely be that with how they're playing.
While I believe still being the youngest defense in football, adjusting for how much they're playing.
Yeah, which is amazing. Amazing. But offensively, this is who they are. Like I don't see a vast improvement. I don't see this is a Chiefs team that, 3-4 weeks from now, all of a sudden they're putting up 35 points consistently. I just don't see it. I think this is the team, and there's nothing wrong with being a really well-balanced team that has a top 5 defense and a top 6 or 7 offense. There's nothing wrong with that. You can win playoff games 24-17. You can win playoff games 21-14. You don't have to win them all 35-31. In fact, look at the Bengals game. What did they win that one? 23-20? I think
that's right, yeah.
The field goal at the end? I mean, I know that was a hobbled Patrick Mahomes, but it was a hobbled Patrick Mahomes with an offense that wasn't looked at like it is this year, as in like, wow, this offense is really struggling. They have some real issues, some real problems, and it may cost them in the playoffs. But that is the thinking of a Chiefs team that defensively would let them down from time to time. That is the thought process of 18, 19 at times, 20 and 21, and at times last year. That shouldn't be the process moving forward. This is a legit defense. They are one of the best in the NFL. The Chiefs can rely on this defense week in and week out, and it allows the Chiefs to also figure some things out offensively while they're going along because the defense is showing up and is consistent. They haven't had a quote-unquote off night yet. And they played the Dolphins with all of the firepower and shut them out in the first half and limited them to 14 points. The defense lost to the Dolphins 14-7.
Yep. The defense had a net -7 on the day.
On the day. The offense just had to score 8 points.
And they barely did.
And they very much did. Yeah.
Closer than anything to be.
They pretty much did.
Did it all the first half.
That's my takeaway. We can get into a lot of different parts of this. We can get into third downs. We can get into 3rd and 1. We can get into a couple of things individually that happened with the defensive plays and guys that stepped up and made some awesome, things like that. We can get into the wide receiver snap counts, which is becoming more and more interesting as the games have gone along.
Sure is.
And we can talk about a lot of different things from that game. But my assessment is this is just simply, it's who the Chiefs are, and they played a solid football game with their identity of what they are moving forward. This is a phenomenal defense and a good offense.
Yeah. It's funny because it's a good offense in that tone. I think it's accurate. With Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
That's right.
It's the bet could be, hey, if the Chiefs with an excellent defense and totally average supporting cast for Patrick Mahomes goes 14-3 or whatever and wins the Super Bowl as the dominant team in the league. The issue is that supporting cast actually average right now, or is it something less than that? We can circle back. I'll tease a bit of positivity to where I think there's a chance this offense does look different in the second half of the season in some key ways.
Great.
But nothing is more important than the defense. Again, weighted by snap count, it's still the youngest defense in football. It is not only beating good teams, it's beating different types of teams and teams with multiple weapons. The Dolphins with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and the running game that we talked about, that we could talk about for another 4 hours today happily. A Vikings team with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and eventually they lose Jefferson in the late third, early fourth quarter. A full game, though, with real weapons. The Chargers, shockingly banged up, but have real weapons, and these are also real quarterbacks. That Jags win in week 2, 9 points to Jacksonville, looks like even more of an achievement every week further away from that game you actually get. For this defense at this point, and with an enormous hat tip to Steve Spagnuolo, to the positional coaches on defense, you are not only seeing the players get better. So again, it's a shout out Dave Merritt, it's a shout out Joe Cullen. It's across the board. Drew Tranquill played out of his mind yesterday with an injured Willie Gay and no Nick Bolton. I didn't actually check Gay's snap counts. I'm guessing he was out there plenty.
I'll look at it right now while you continue.
Saw him out there a lot. But I even if he played a lot still, he was doing it banged up in a way that kept him out of some practices this week.
He played 40% of the snaps.
I'm surprised. You know what? That's more limited than I would have guessed.
I would have guessed, too, because he felt like he was out there almost every play because he was making plays.
He was impacting stuff constantly, and so I'm guessing that also means there was a lot of Leo Chanel, and I think there was a handful of Jack Cochran snaps. But for the Chiefs to be able to hold up in a game here where their defensive line wasn't dominant, it was going to be hard for that to be the case because the Dolphins want things to move quickly anyway. But it's exotic blitzes at times that it makes sense. It's not blitzing in week 1 against the Lions because Chris Jones isn't there. It's the only way to get pressure. It's not even blitzing as your defense is still kind of piecing together because you want to have something you can mix things up with. Now it's an off-speed pitch. You can have George Karlaftis drop back into coverage a couple of times and bring an offloaded pressure from the other side. It is a playmaking defense. I said this on postgame yesterday. I understand that this is my absolute, this is on my bingo card. I'll talk about NFL Street and the impact it made on me as the most impactful football video game of all time. Any chance I get an opportunity to. But the defense is playing that way also. We've seen the Chiefs offense play loose and free and be it backyard football or NFL Street or whatever your choice of video game or style may be. But this defense is simultaneously disciplined and talented and young and fun enough for Trent McDuffie to strip the ball from Tyreek Hill in the Tyreek Hill revenge game, for Mike Edwards to scoop it up, get spun around, look back, and see Brian Cook coming and saying, here we go. Travis Kelce ain't got nothing on this. Pitching it to Brian Cook with wheels I did not know were attached to that horse. I think I'm mixing metaphors. He's a horse with wheels.
That's right.
Galloping down that sideline.
With the Breeders' Cup over the weekend, the fastest horse might have been Brian Cook down the sideline.
I don't know if he was the horse or if he was on his horse or if he was in the chariot, but there was a lot of movement down that sideline. And that type of
chariot
electricity
racing would have been awesome if he just
with the spikes on the side, like gladiator style.
If he picked up McDuffie and Mike Edwards along the way while running, so all three of them could enjoy it, and
they have one hand on the football, so all three of them technically get a touchdown somehow.
That's right. Yes.
To get a playmaking spark like that from your defense is a tough thing to find in the NFL, and this team just keeps doing it. It is electric.
It's like the Dion high step when he went back to Atlanta.
Yep.
If Brian Cook had played for Miami before and was looking at the sideline, it's almost identical.
That could have been flagged in case he pointed. Just don't be doing pointing during a play, everybody.
Tell me you can't take Brian Cook and pause that and lift him out of that picture, take the pads off, put a singlet on him, and put him on a track and have the baton handed to him,
yes.
And he's finishing the last leg of a 4x100.
Yes.
That's what – that
great
form was brilliant.
Yes, great form.
The high knees, as soon as he saw it there, it was just sprinting. That dude – he got 21 and a half miles an hour on the run?
The fastest ball carrier of the year for the Chiefs.
Was Brian Cook.
I
didn't know he had those wheels.
Yeah, I don't either.
And as soon as he turned on the afterburners, I was like, whoa. I could not believe how quick he was. And so much of that play is just brilliant because the film study, for Trent McDuffie to see the play before it happened, to know that this motion means that. And while this motion may mean something for other teams, the Dolphins are using this motion to bring this guy over, and he's going to block, and he's not going to be the one that gets the ball on this screen. They've been using him as a blocker, so when he comes over and Tua looks this way, I immediately go inside the blocker to go get to Tyreek, to tackle him, to push him back, and then to rip the ball out. That's what, 5 forced fumbles for Trent? I'm just making up a number because it seems that way. I think it's like 3 or 4. It's at least 3, I know that, because he had 2 early in the season. It's at least 3 forced fumbles for Trent McDuffie this year. So it might
It's
be
4.
I was going to say it might be 4.
4.
It's at least 3. It might be 4 forced fumbles for a cornerback.
Detroit, Chicago, Denver the first time, in Miami.
Yeah. And for them and for Mike Edwards to then scoop it and then to have the wherewithal to turn around. I know it's dangerous. I wish more defensive players would do that.
I do too.
When you've got when there's a bunch of your teammates around you.
Yes.
To just drop it off behind you and then let them do the work. Who was there with him? Because it looked like he had a choice, but he chose Cook because he was fast. It was like
I
Noddy or
saw that.
something. Or Mike Dana.
May have made the right call.
I think it might have been Mike Dana or somebody over there because Dana read it quickly too. So if you watch that, everybody's paying attention to McDuffie. But Dana, I think Snead, McDuffie, and somebody else were over there. So even if McDuffie doesn't make that tackle and get in there that quick, that play's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. But it went the other way for 6, and
it's such a good play by McDuffie.
He saw it immediately.
He's just, you're right. So Dana was right there, and then Cook is closing in as Edwards is closing in. Chris Jones kind of loops around.
So I think
but
it was
Trent
Dana.
McDuffie is just living back there.
So I think it was Edwards when he was about to pitch it behind him. I think it was Dana or Brian Cook that he could choose between, and he chose correctly.
Yes, he did.
He did not choose poorly. He chose correctly. But like that play, to me.
Oh, Joshua Williams was up there also.
Oh yeah, that's right, number 2.
Yeah.
So they had that. They had that swarmed.
It was a safe pitch.
They had that swarmed, and that's part of like the defense for Spagnuolo. The communication, how smart the team is, how fast the team is. That's why, I look at this team as this defense has been really consistent. They haven't had a letdown because they're just freaking good. They are really good. They are not really good comparing themselves to other Chiefs defenses. Mm-hmm. They are really good comparing themselves to the best defenses in the NFL. And they are damn sure in the conversation for best defenses in the NFL. This Chiefs defense, it's the second fewest yards Miami has gained this year. The fewest was 244 against Philadelphia. It's the 4th fewest yards that Miami has gained with Tyreek Hill and Tua in the game because last year Tua had the injuries. Mm-hmm. So with Tyreek and Tua, the 4th fewest yards allowed by a defense. One of those games that was fewer yards than the Chiefs was the Buffalo game in which Tua suffered the concussion but stayed in the game.
Yeah.
Remember that? And it was the week before the Bengals game. So the 4th fewest, really the 3rd fewest, because again, we know Tua was concussed and stayed in the game. And then what happened after that was like, this guy doesn't look the same. This is weird. This guy does not. Maybe he messed up his head there, or when he was shaking and holding his head and laying on the ground. Maybe that was something.
It doesn't seem like himself since we heard that long gong noise for no reason.
Yeah,
just
it's
echo
weird.
through the stadium. Weird.
It was Tua's 4th lowest passing yards with Tyreek. 2 of the other 3 were the Buffalo game that we just mentioned and the Cincinnati game the next week in which he was concussed and had the fencing response. So this was the 2nd lowest passing yards for Tua with Tyreek Hill.
I think it's the first time Mike McDaniel's Dolphins have been shut out in the first half.
It is. I think it's the first time they've been shut out in a half.
Oh, that would also make sense. Yeah.
If there's been another, it's definitely the first half.
Yeah, I think.
But it might be just any half at all. But still, and oddly enough, those 2 offenses that we talk about in the preview there was each got shut out for a half. Like that's odd.
It is very weird.
Chiefs going.
We were on it a little bit. Like it was even funny hearing Andy Reid after the game of like, I didn't think it'd be one of these games. We were on the under on this one. This was a low scoring game in our minds, and because the Chiefs defense is legit and their offense is kind of a problem sometimes.
All week it was under, take the under, take the under, take the under, take the under. Different shows going on. Under, take the under. Really, it's going to be a lot of points. Take the under.
I wish I would have taken the under more.
Well, I'm an idiot, and I got a story off the air.
Oh,
So
no.
I'll just tell it on the air.
Okay.
Place a little money on the Chiefs and the under. Looking at the account, and I'm like, well, that hasn't popped up yet. I don't know what's going on.
Hasn't hit yet.
Hadn't hit yet. So I go there and check. I'm like, that didn't lose. My dumbass pressed the over.
No!
It's the first time I've ever done that.
No!
First time I've ever done that. I'm like, well, that's the money I could use. Because I'm like, I wanted DraftKings to be like, DraftKings, no. I want to play you all of the sound that I've had of me saying the under. I clearly would not have taken the over in this.
I have evidence
Please.
of this.
I have evidence that I just pressed the. I don't care.
I did the same thing with a Tyreek Hill anytime touchdown with plus 270. Just accidentally hit send on that one. So I feel your pain.
I was like, oh, Dylan didn't understand the story. Jason. Oh, nope, Dylan did understand the story. We were talking about it.
No, I thought he was going to say.
Talking about
I
it.
had an anytime touchdown for Mostert, and I pressed first touchdown score of the game. No, I've never done that before where I clicked the wrong thing, the over, the under. All right, we'll get to some text. We'll come back and we'll get to those on hold. We will get to your phone calls right after the break. We'll go to you guys. Jerry and Rodney have been waiting the longest. We'll get to you guys right after the break. But a few texts that have come in that have been pretty good as we'll continue to check the texts throughout the show as well. Text says, I'm 35 with 2 small kids, and it's been quite some time since I've been as drunk as I was yesterday before noon. So I like that one. This text comes in, says, I have one take. The third and short play calling is turning me into an alcoholic. I mean, I started drinking before 9 in the morning yesterday. It's also pretty good. This text says, I'm with you, Jason. I think at this point the offense is what it is. We'll have some spurts of brilliance, but wildly inconsistent. And then said, Cook started back at the 10. It's crazy how quickly he got to the spot.
Wow.
I can't wait to see all 22 to see Brian Cook from where he was when that play started to get that. So he started from the 10 and then still had that much speed in the last 20, 30 yards of that, what would have been 90-yard run.
And also who on Miami was loafing when he was wrapped up by Tyreek Hill as well. That'll be interesting to see who kind of gave up on the play.
Who was jogging. Yeah, for sure. I thought maybe you were saying Tyreek Hill wasn't. I'm like, well, I don't remember. He was the one that had to. But yeah, but
He
just
grabbed
the question.
him, but
like,
he just was holding him there.
Right, but just the simple question of like who was.
And then Joshua Williams sets the little screen. Mike Edwards was looking for work immediately after, which Dylan pointed out yesterday. Just a great play. Also, with only 40 seconds, there's no guarantee that turns into Chiefs points at all. Like, that is just a brilliant play.
Yes. All right, 913-912-4810. Text comes in. Where did that text go? Hold on. I need to find the text before we go to break.
No hurry, man. I'm just going to keep watching this touchdown on loop.
Yep, here we go. Text says, prove to me you guys look at this and mention Missouri Western upset over Pitt State. Come on, mention it. There you go. Mo West.
We're going to find out if Kendall's listening, I guess.
Pitt State, yeah. Well, the way they played, they could have beat Penn State, I think. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Your phone calls next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon, but no Andy Reid today. No Mick Schaefer either today. But we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Looking at now, it was Josh Williams or Brian Cook that he could have tossed the ball back. But so either one would have been fine, but I don't know if Josh Williams would have outright. I have no idea, but I know Brian Cook did, so I'm glad he made that decision.
Williams might have gotten grabbed by Hill there, too,
Yeah,
just
true.
based on the way that they all ended up. I mean, it's just, again, I tweeted out something to this effect, but like really precise, excellent football is really cool. I love really excellent football. But my favorite thing in sports is chaotic, fun football. And the Chiefs have given us some real moments of that, specifically this defense.
And the serendipitous result of McDuffie being the one that strips Tyreek Hill, the draft pick there, and then having the massive amount of draft picks, being able to take a wide receiver and a safety in the second round and not have to choose between the two. Maybe they go wide receiver or safety, but Brian Cook, part of that draft, and having those different draft picks. So in theory, you get Trent McDuffie and Brian Cook and a number of other guys because of that Tyreek trade, and those guys connect for the touchdown. Let's go to Jerry leading us off here on Sports Radio 810 on this Monday edition, Victory Monday for the Chiefs, taking your phone calls up until noon. Jerry, go right ahead leading us off. What's on your mind, sir?
I'm happy you guys got your games you wanted. That was awesome. I wish you would have won your bet. But in honor of Mick Schaefer not being there in his absence, how about the German people stepping up and making that stadium Eurohead? Because when I heard home of the Chiefs over the radio, that's the same thing I do the first time I went to a Chiefs game, the last time I went in the crowd. Do you know what I mean by that?
Absolutely, and Mahomes actually shook his head a little bit after the home of the Chiefs there.
Awesome.
So yeah, the crowd was good. You're right about that.
Officially Eurohead. And then I got something good about Andy Reid, but
yeah, go ahead.
when I saw the crowd, when I was watching it and the way I was seeing it, I was already liking the game, and I like you guys fill us in on all the stats and everything. The only thing I could say is when I saw them people singing a John Denver song, Country Road, same song that reminds me of my sister in Houston. That she's a purchaser for a company, but I told her a couple weeks ago that song always reminds me of her. I saw Chiefs fans and Dolphins fans swaying side to side singing Country Road. Not really, I guess, broken English, Jinglish.
Sure.
But that was awesome. And Andy Reid, I guess, the next win he gets, he overtakes Hank Scram for the winningest coach in Chiefs history or something. Right now he's tied with him, I guess, after last night. You'd have to check that one out. But that was really an awesome game. And I once I seen all that stuff, my friend upstairs is using us to make a good difference around the globe. And I think that's awesome. I hope for peace for Israel. And that's all I can really say. You guys do a great job. My favorite radio station. I prefer you over Rich Eisen any day.
Thank you, Jerry, for the kind words. I appreciate it, sir. It was a rough broadcast. It was a rough broadcast yesterday. It was a rough broadcast if you were watching the Missouri game on CBS too. I mean, it was two rough broadcasts, but at least one of the teams ended up winning. So let's go to Rodney next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Rodney, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
What's going on, Jason?
What's up, man?
Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I spoke with Josh Brisco yesterday during the postgame show about this, and I wanted to speak about it again with you. I hear a lot of Chiefs fans right now is going back crazy about the wide receivers. The wide receivers not getting separation. The wide receiver this, wide receiver that. Well, why Brett Veach didn't get DeAndre Hopkins? Little newsflash for Chiefs fans. It's the reason why Brett Veach didn't get DeAndre Hopkins. You have a first-year wide receiver coach at the wide receiver position. But he never coached a wide receiver. The only thing he had of experience of a wide receiver, and no against the KU, but he only played wide receiver at the University of Kansas. That's all. He's been around helping coaching wide receivers, been around holding the bag and been around them, but he's never been the guy, the voice to coach wide receivers. So he cannot tell them nothing about, hey, when you see this coverage, do that. when you see someone do this, this is what you do. This is how you run this route. You know, and he can't do that. But lo and behold, when I do my research, our very own running back coach played for Andy Reid and was a primary target for Donovan McNabb as a wide receiver. Why is he coaching our running backs? He can now. I see why. I see the difference in Isaiah Pacheco when he understands the difference of how linebackers are lining up in the hole. I see how I can understand how he run his routes coming out of the backfield differently. Now I can see that. Why is he not coaching our wide receivers? Because that's the big difference to me. And I'm looking at the coaching. And everyone will talk about what DeAndre Hopkins is. We had every single scout when Rashid Rice was drafted. Every scout around the league say he is the 2.0 of DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, because how he gets down the field, how he can high point the ball. When was the last time we saw Rashid Rice go downfield and high point the ball?
I don't know.
Guarantee a lot of
I don't know.
a lot of fans might not remember.
Yeah, I
He
don't
did it in
remember
the
one.
preseason game.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't remember in the regular season that happening.
So to me, that's why I really want to use someone press pass and on a Thursday. I don't want to talk to Andy Reid. I want to talk to Matt Nagy, especially when ever since he said that, we have not worked with these wide receivers to do certain things, but Justin Ross know how to catch back shoulder passes. Rashid Rice is a nasty guy coming with a slant route. If anybody noticed, Jalen Ramsey covered Rashid Rice when he was on the field, which he led the team, the wide receivers, in snaps. He never gave him inside leverage. Vic Fangio is a very smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
Why would Jalen Ramsey give Rashid Rice an inside leverage? Because he knows, one, Matt Nagy is not going to call Rashid Rice to go deep. But he will call him to do a slant, and he will take a 10-yard slant or a 5-yard slant and make it an 80-yard gain. He's not going to get beat on the inside. That's common sense. That's common coaching. And so I really want to really patch in on, look at the offensive coaching staff. And to me, I am blaming Andy Reid for literally having Matt Nagy hindering our wide receivers. It is not our wide receivers' fault of what's going on. I'm looking at the coaching. Because at the same time, when you mentioned how the defense struggled in the past 5 years, all of Chiefs Kingdom was jumping down Steve Spagnuolo's throat. And I'm seeing Chiefs fans right now trying to hurry up and delete them tweets, calling for his job. But now all of a sudden, when that defensive coaching staff became cutthroat and started getting on them guys, things changed. Things changed drastically. The offense lost a cutthroat coach and now is seeing a big difference. It's one thing for being somebody's friend. This is the pros. This is the NFL. This is not college. We're here to win. And that's it. That's the name of the game. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Rodney, I appreciate the phone call, man. There's a lot there. 913-810-810. Look, do they have enough at – well, let me address this part first because this has been the main conversation we've been having all season is wide receivers, right? Do they have enough at wide receivers to win a Super Bowl? Yes, they do. Can they win a Super Bowl with this wide receiving core? Yes. They will not win a Super Bowl because of this wide receiving core, but you can win a Super Bowl with this wide receiving core.
If your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Right.
And you got the defense they do,
Right.
and and you have Travis Kelce as your tight end.
Right.
Yes, you can win a Super Bowl with this receiving core. The main the receiving core last year versus this year, you take Juju out, you add Rashee Rice, especially with the snap counts yesterday. MVS, Justin Watson, and Rashee Rice were the top three snap counts. Everybody else was like 15 or fewer. That's last year, MVS, Justin Watson, and Juju. Like that's last year's snap counts. You take Juju out, you put Rashee Rice in there. That's the main difference we're seeing right now. So they won a Super Bowl with that. With a worse defense, by the way. But a better overall offense that was more effective for one reason or another. I think there's something to what Rodney's talking about. When you change out position coaches and things like that and a coordinator, and they've been doing it a lot. And it's a credit to Andy Reid that loses coaches, and then you've got to go and find some other coaches and coach those guys up. But, yeah, you had, Kafka as your quarterback's coach, and you had Eric Bieniemy as your offensive coordinator, and you had guys in place. And now guys have moved up and taken different spots, and first-time wide receiver coach, first-time quarterback coach, first-time running back coach, as he's right, that played wide receiver. You no longer have Eric Bieniemy there. Is that the detail part of what's going on? I have no idea what's taking place on the sideline or what's taking place in practice or film study or anything like that or during the game. But I know that the sort of details and detail-oriented things are the things that Eric Bieniemy was credited for so many times. And I have no idea what Matt Nagy's like on the sideline. So I'm not going to assess it one way or another and say, well, yeah, but Matt Nagy's not doing this, this, or this. What I will say is, for all the people that when the offense was struggling were quick to blame Eric Bieniemy, this show never did, because we talked about it and said, you're complaining about Eric Bieniemy's play calling. Andy Reid calls the plays.
Right.
All right, we know that. Well, Eric Bieniemy doesn't just call the bad plays. Like the absurdity that especially that hit piece that came out with the Chiefs fan board or whatever the hell that thing was, executive fan board or whatever. So that was dumb, and that was obvious. It was dumb from the beginning. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not going to look at Matt Nagy and go, well, he's calling terrible plays. Well, Andy Reid's calling the plays. The difference is, what's the conversation like? What's the communication like on the sideline between series, in practices, in film study, things like that? Is there something missing from that from last year to this year? I have no idea.
I think there might be. I think I got some theories. We also running out of hours, so I'm going to put a pin in it. I got the coaching side. I got some things for you, Jason.
Pin that.
Pin it.
Pin it.
Pinning it.
All right. We'll take a timeout, and after that's been pinned, we'll come back and talk about the pin.
Ooh, I can unpin it?
Yes.
I'm going to unpin it. Next.
All right, what'd you put a pin in? And I need you to take the pin out.
I'm going to take the pin out, put the pin in. I'm going to get this little grenade out of here, I guess. I don't want to be taking pins out of too much.
Drop the pin, throw the grenade. You dropped the grenade, you threw the pin. Run.
That sounds like a reference to something.
It's from In the Army Now.
Okay.
Pauly Shore.
Wow. I'm no closer to knowing what that's from.
I'm pretty sure that was nominated for an Academy Award for the best movie.
I'm really sorry. I bet it was. It sounds like a real winner.
It was not.
The coaching conversations that have kind of been bubbling, I think, have been really interesting. And to Rodney's point from a second ago, and he called in, like you said, post game last night. I do think it's a reasonable thing to be discussing, but it's a very, very difficult thing to discuss from the outside, because saying, here's what Matt Nagy is bad at in the building from the radio station, like we try not to be intentionally foolish about things.
Right.
But there are two things that I think we saw Eric Bieniemy be, and, he talked about, he's not about the numbers, he's about the alphabets, right? Well, Eric Bieniemy was two types of alphabets that I don't know that they have on this coaching staff right now. He was the RB and the AH. And I don't know where else that is right now. I still am just sort of sitting here kind of tongue-in-cheek, kind of seriously waiting for Matt Nagy to be the next head coach of the Chiefs. It just sort of feels like that's the plan. I don't know that it is. But I also wonder if there's a little redundancy in Andy Reid and Matt Nagy as these, like, quarterbacking, pass-first sort of schematic geniuses that are going to be even-keeled. Players talk about that being an advantage of Andy Reid all the time. He's the same guy every day. That's a good thing. You do not want a lunatic head coach. Just ask the Raiders, or before that, the Raiders, or before that, the Raiders, or before that, the Raiders. But I also don't mind if you have an offensive coordinator who's like, Andy, please, Isaiah Pacheco is just burning coal on the sideline right now. Let's set him loose, you mother bleeper. I think that might be kind of nice. That might be missing right now. But I'm also optimistic about some bye-week tinkering we can talk about, too.
I also don't know if Eric Bieniemy would have told Andy, no, let's hand it to Pacheco here. It's still Andy Reid.
That's true.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We'll hear from Field Yates coming up at noon. Let's hear from the Kansas City Chiefs after the game was over there in Germany. Let's hear from Andy Reid. Here is his opening assessment of the game and what took place, what he saw in the 21-14 win.
Defensively, what a first half and what a second half. That fourth quarter was really something, which made it very exciting. The McDuffie strip of Tyreek, punching the ball out, Edwards picking it up, Cook scoring, him lateraling to Cook scores. It doesn't get any better than that. Snead's ability to match up most of the day on Tyreek was big, although Tyreek's a heck of a football player. I mean, he made a couple real nice plays in there too. So offensively, we did some great things, and then we sputtered at times. But I would tell you that first drive was a thing of beauty. And then, again, the next touchdown was also a good job of getting ourselves upfield and scoring on that. So, and then, again, our offensive line, I thought, did a very nice job in the run game. I thought that was a real positive for us during the game, which obviously uses a lot of time in doing so. Pacheco, I thought, ran very hard. Good eyes on things, picking the holes properly, and did a good job there. And then special teams, we made enough plays there that were positive. We were trying to change the field position around a little bit at the end. Again, we've got to watch ourselves on these catches inside the 5.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, a lot of good things yesterday. A lot of things to take away that were positive. Certainly a lot on the defensive side. I did think Pacheco ran the ball really well yesterday. Even some of the 2-yard gains or 3-yard gains, because he had a few of those. Even some of those were like hard-fought runs to where I think he found the right angle and was able to spin off and even gain a couple of yards because he's running as hard as he is. But the risk reward of catching the ball at the 2-yard line, like, and Dave told, these punters are really good. They can drop it at the 1-yard line. I'll take a chance rather than catch it at the 2. It'd be different if it was like, no, we don't want him to catch those things. Just no, not at all. Because he says each and every time he talks to the punt returners. Oh, each time they go out, I have a conversation with them. So was this, we're trying to flip the field the ball, maybe not realizing that dude was going to put it at the 2-yard line, field the ball? Because at worst, if you don't field the ball, at worst, you're 1 yard behind where the ball landed. Now we know he got to like the 10, but then there was also a penalty. So then he got to the 5. So at worst, you're 4 yards further back when knowing the result of the play. Or maybe you're at the 25. Like that just, it's absurd. And so I don't blame McCole Hardman. I blame McCole Hardman for dropping the punt last week. That's on McCole, catch the football. I don't blame McCole Hardman for going back to the 2-yard line and catching it because Dave Tobe himself said last week, I have a conversation with the punt returners before they go out there on every single return discussing what we want to do. And if Dave Tobe had said, hey, man, anything inside the 5, just let that thing go. Or, as Andy Reid said, we were trying to flip the field. We got to watch it on those catches inside the 5, but we were trying to flip the field. I guarantee that's what Dave Tobe was talking to McCole Hardman about. Let's get a big return. Let's flip the field. Go make a play, McCole.
A big return, maybe getting to the 24. God, if you get to the 25-yard line, our offense would have some space to work. You could really flip the field there.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it felt like they were pinned back for so much of that game. They were up back in their own territory. I was like, well, maybe just let one of these suckers bounce and just sort of see what happens. I don't know, just for fun. Just switch it up.
For S's and G's, just to see what'll happen there. Yeah, like that was it did feel like, and as we talked about in the first hour, like it felt like most of the first half, it was the Chiefs starting at the bottom of the hill and the Dolphins starting at the top of the hill because they were getting the ball around midfield and the Chiefs defense was getting a stop. And then they'd punt and the Chiefs were backed up inside their own 10. And then the Dolphins would get the ball, around their own 40, around midfield. And then the Chiefs defense would step up and get a stop. And then the punt would take them back to the 10. Like it was just back and forth, back and forth. And I had tweeted out before the 95-yard drive, and I'm glad I did. I tweeted out and said, both defense are stepping up and doing what they need to do. The Chiefs defense is keeping the Dolphins from even scoring points, and the Dolphins are keeping the Chiefs in their own territory so that the field position doesn't flip. And then that's when the Chiefs got the ball at the 5-yard line and drove 95 yards. I'm like, yes, glad I tweeted it then and not the next one, since I had full control over what happened in that game. And I should have tweeted it earlier, so I apologize
You really
about
should have, yeah.
all of that. Andy Reid went on to talk about, what has been a conversation that has been happening since yesterday, since that 3rd down and 1 play. He was asked about passing it on 3rd down and 1 by Adam Teicher, and here's Andy's response.
Yeah, that would be one. If we ran it, you would have been asking me why we didn't throw it. So, but I'm gonna tell you, yeah. But I'll tell you, I probably should have put it in the hands of the big old line. I owe him one on that one.
Yeah, I disagree. Not the last part.
Not the first part.
Yeah, I disagree with the first part. If you just simply handed it off, I don't think people would have been complaining that you should have thrown the ball. There might have been a complaint of what was the handoff? Right. Like, what was the play call? Was it a pitch outside to Pacheco?
Did you fly Clyde in on Saturday to...
Was it P. Ryan getting the ball? Right. Was it a handoff to McKinnon, who then tosses it to McCole Hardman? What was it under center and McCole Hardman comes in motion and you take the snap and quickly hand it to him?
Did Kadarius Toney take the snap?
Right. The handoff, there's multiple ways to discuss that. But had they just simply called a power play, let Creed and Trey and Tooney reset the line of scrimmage, and let Pacheco do what he had been doing, which was driving and picking up extra yards after contact, spinning off defenders, pushing the pile. If they had done that and they just got stuffed, people would have said, at least, I don't know. I don't care what people would have said. My reaction would have been, you got to be better at executing the play by the offensive line. But I'm perfectly fine with that, given the way the game had gone, the flow of the game at that point. Because I think there are, and this is where, maybe a former quarterback, maybe Alex Smith, somebody at Chase Daniel, whoever might have played for Andy Reid, or wide receivers or anybody, coaches, whatever. No doubt they have a list of 3rd and short plays, 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, 2-point conversions that they think will work against the Dolphins. They've scouted, looked at, and said these are our best plays on 3rd and short. 3rd and 2, Sky Moore for 10 yards. That's the first one they went to on the scripted play. Was that the next play in line on the script, no matter what they were doing, or that was the first 3rd and short play on the script, and it was, all right, this is Sky Moore, this is going to be the little 10-yard pass or the little pass at the line of scrimmage, turn up the field, he gets 10 yards. That was great, mainly because it worked, but also, not just because it worked, but because at the end of the game, there's a couple of things. It's keeping the clock moving to get to the 2-minute warning, but it's what we had seen happening in the game. The Chiefs' offense passing it was struggling. They were struggling to pass the ball. Pacheco was not getting stopped for negative or 0 yards. It was the game flow that says, I'm just going to put it in the hands of the big uglies. And Pacheco, and let him go and be a powerful force, drive his legs, and pick up the yard.
And obviously, look, this is, even I wasn't going to dream of a go for a 4th and 1 in that situation. But if you are running the football with some effort and some success, if Isaiah Pacheco gets to 4th and a centimeter, maybe it's in other situations, and I'm way out ahead of my skis and just hoping Andy Reid someday sees this. But if that was something that was like in your DNA, it would make me feel a little bit better. Like, oh yeah, we do have a short yardage easy button that we can push here. That's probably going to keep us from having to worry about 4th and short at all. Like, They went 3 and out and burned no timeouts there, and that's crazy.
And I don't think there would have been a complaint of if you simply handed it off to Pacheco.
No, because it's your high percentage play, even as a team that has struggled to run the ball. It's like we talked about last week of the stuff that felt gimmicky and stale, where it was not the straight up football where that part of it seemed like it was the hardest thing to find. The Chiefs' offense in that second half, again, struggling all the way to that point in a spot where you would just like to just pick up a first down and eat some clock. But when you have failed to execute on some of the simpler stuff in anybody's playbook, everything starts to feel a little more desperate. Like you gotta nail these little gimmicky things. That was more the story of the Broncos game than the Dolphins game in my mind. I don't know if it's because the Dolphins defense was a little more legitimate, or because some of the Chiefs' problems were relatively obvious in this game, or some of the drive enders were relatively obvious, but that one's frustrating, and I'm with you. No one would be complaining about them running the ball on 3rd and 1.
Not only that, like it was the ball. The first down marker was the 20. The ball was at the 19.5.
Yeah.
And Pacheco just picked up 3.5 yards on the previous play. Like, it was 2nd and 4, and he picked up 3.5 yards. He gets tackled just short of the first down marker. You had just handed it off to him and picked up damn near 4 yards. You need a half. You need a half yard.
And Pacheco wasn't on the field on 3rd down.
Oh, as soon as that happened, I knew they were passing the ball.
You run a play action and have McKinnon there. What does the defense actually think is going to happen with Jerick McKinnon? He's either going to run a route or he's going to be there in pass pro.
But honestly, when McKinnon was out there, you knew they were passing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, at 1,000%, and so did the defense.
Yeah,
and so did Everett, right? Was that what you tweeted?
That was K-State.
That was, oh my God, you're right. That was K-State.
That was with Will Howard.
That was a very funny tweet, and I completely, wow, 2 games just collided together.
Yeah, no, that was K-State with Will Howard when, I don't even remember which one it was, but, it was in overtime, right?
Yes.
The third and short. I'm like, they're going to run it with the quarterback
right.
here.
That
like,
was
how did
the
they know?
K-State game.
And then it happened. He's like, how did you know it? Everyone knew.
Everyone knew. That is exactly
knew,
what it felt like at 3rd and 1 with Jerick McKinnon on the field,
yes,
too.
Everyone knew. The Dolphins knew. They did not play the run there. There was no reason for them to play the run on that one. Jerick McKinnon isn't the guy that's going to be powerful, that's going to break a tackle. That's just not what he does. It's going to be Isaiah Pacheco. And the Dolphins were ready. And it's typically, and this is where, we get into the, well, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I understand where Andy Reid's coming from, because Andy Reid has probably heard, well, hey, put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. Why don't you put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands? And so if I had my choice of play calls, it would be handed off, power up the middle. Mm-hmm. Second would be Patrick Mahomes, opportunity to throw with different choices. That was the second one. What they went with was the second choice. It didn't work. I also would have liked Pacheco on the field, because at least I give the defense a thought that I am going to hand it off here.
And Pacheco had at least 2 stupendous pass block reps yesterday.
Yeah.
Some stupendous work. He's taking some strides there.
He absolutely has. And I just, so much of that was a tendency for the Chiefs that another team sort of knows what they like to do, what they don't want to do, and it played into exactly really what the Dolphins were doing. I think
for K-State, when they motion Giddens out is what you do. They motion Giddens out of the backfield. Empty set. Everyone knew.
Empty set, and I'm like, well, they're running it here. And then he took the snap and ran it right up the middle and stopped. And
did you try to make? That is so funny that those 2 things are completely married in my brain. Did you try to do it again on Sunday morning? Be like, son, watch this. Jerick McKinnon is in the game. It's 3rd and 1. They're throwing the football.
No, I did not.
Did he say it? Did he go, Dad, watch this? They're passing.
Dad, this is going to be a run for Will Howard, isn't it? Son, you're confused. Why don't they just hand it off to Cody Schrader? I know!
Exactly!
I know, son! I agree!
Where's Jalen Daniels?
913-381-810. Let's hear from... which one do I want to play here? Let's just talk. Andy Reid talking about how big this win was for the Chiefs as they knock off the Miami Dolphins. While we can talk about those little parts of it, I think a lot of people going into the game this past week, you said, hey, they beat the Dolphins How did they beat the Dolphins? It doesn't matter. It may not be pretty or whatever. Are you okay with whatever the result is if they beat the Dolphins? Yes. Okay, that's what you got. It was a big win, and they took care of business. Here's Andy Reid on that.
Well, it was big. We have this bye week coming up, and there's nothing worse than going into a bye week with a loss, first of all, and then a 10-hour or 8-hour plane ride on top of that, and that doesn't lead to a good feeling. But we're 6-2 sitting there with the Dolphins coming into this, and knowing that they're one of the better teams in the AFC. And so I love the energy, the way our guys rebounded from that last game against Denver. All those things are so important to making up a good football team, and our guys did that. Last week we were off, and this one here they weren't going there, and you could just feel it. I think probably all you felt it in here from the first drive on. So I think you look back on it, I think this was a big week, and then the way things worked over here, I think, was very smooth. This can be, when you start going across the pond, as they'd say, right? So you go across the pond, I mean, many things can happen, and things have to hit right. And I'm telling you, the German people were phenomenal in setting things up for us, as was our staff.
I mean, no matter how they got it done against the Dolphins. There were clearly impressive parts of this game, and obviously the defensive performance was really impressive in this game. Offensively, they had their struggles at times, no doubt. But a win is a win is a win. You never apologize. You'd like to find a way to beat the Denver Broncos, last Sunday, and be 8-1 right now. But sitting 7-2, and certainly you take that.
What do you think he meant when he said they were off last week and we weren't going there this week? You didn't score in the second half this week, man. If you really didn't believe, like he said elsewhere, that 21 points was going to win this, he didn't say that verbatim. He said, did you expect to be, this low scoring defensive game, whatever. If you didn't think 21 points was going to win this game, were you just sort of chilling at half? It's a great win, and the defense deserves a ton of credit.
But it was also 21 points with 7 from the defense.
With 7 from the defense. Your offense scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, the offense was 14-14 with the Dolphins.
One of them was to a football player who had 2 targets on the day. One of them was a touchdown, and one of them was a great diving first down, and he played a ton of snaps and didn't see the football again.
He played the most snaps as a wide receiver.
Which is great.
And he had 2 of the biggest catches in the game.
Also great.
The touchdown. And if he doesn't make the diving catch, it's a 3-and-out, and they're punting. Instead, it's the last third down they face on that entire drive until the touchdown to McKinnon on 3rd and 3. They were picking up first downs on first down or second down after that diving catch.
Yep.
They got in a rhythm. They got rolling. If he doesn't make that catch, who knows what happens? I mean, honestly, we might be talking about the Chiefs losing the game after that phenomenal opening possession and then the offense going dark after that.
You want to take it 1 second further. That's also the drive before the Tyreek strip and defensive touchdown.
That's a good point.
Just a lot of butterfly wings and everything. That whole drive is happening in a different spot in the field, probably.
What we're saying is the whole game is credited to Rashee Rice's catch on 3rd and 5.
Probably should be. The audio's not as good, but if you wanted to hear him break that down, I like this clip from him because it's another example of Rashee Rice getting it. In this case, it is like the NFL, unfortunately, it isn't the ball more than 2 times. But regardless, I like hearing Rashee Rice say things that make me have continually growing confidence in him as a wide receiver.
Let's hear him break down that 3rd down and 5 route and catch.
That play is, that's not necessarily the intended route, but I have an option to sit it down, go inside or go outside. I kind of took a wide step to basically let the defense, declare, so I could know if it was man or zone defense. And when I realized that it was man defense, I just kind of raced to the sideline, knowing that Pat would get the ball to me.
Race to the sideline. I saw it was man. Race to the sideline, knowing that Pat would get the ball to me.
We talk about trust a lot between the receivers and quarterbacks. It's got to go both ways, ideally. Rashee Rice, I'm just going to, I got it. I did my job. I took my wide step. I got man. I've got my option here. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to trust Pat to see it and get me the ball.
Mm-hmm.
First down, and a huge one. Is he only doing that once a game, or I don't know?
I mean,
I'm still not sure.
There's got to be out of the 38 reps that he had and the 60 some odd % of the snaps that he played, which was the most. Let's see. He had 41 reps, 68%, 41 snaps. Out of the 41 snaps, like there's got to be a way to find more targets for Rashee Rice to get him the ball. Just throw it his way. We need to take a break. But last one on this, as we were talking about the 3rd and 1 and things like that, and offense, some of the struggles that are happening with this team. Rewatching the 3rd and 1 pass makes it a little more frustrating when you see that the defense for Miami, they've got 2 linebackers in the game, right? And as Mahomes is going to hand off or fake the handoff to McKinnon, both linebackers already stop moving forward. They take like 2 or 3 steps forward and then stop. Yeah. Now that's probably maybe it's reading the offensive line because the offensive line isn't firing out and going down the field, so you're immediately seeing that's a play action. But nobody that was on one of the receivers, whether that be Gray or Kelsey, or I think it was Sky Moore on that side because Rashee Rice wasn't in the game, because why would he be in the game on that play? So like Sky Moore, Kelsey, and Noah Gray, all 3 of the guys that were defending them were just paying attention to them. Nobody. You had the 4 down linemen and 1 linebacker that was up there to try to stop the run, and 5 guys blocking. Everybody else was immediately moving with the wide receivers and the tight ends. That nobody was focusing on the run. I'm sorry. Nobody was focusing on the run. If they were focusing on the run, then those linebackers would have sprung forward whether Jerick McKinnon got the ball or not. They took a 2-step. They never made it to the 1st down marker. They were lined up at the 22. They never made it to the 20, meaning they started going forward and immediately stopped. Like, I don't know. Just
are you watching it? Have you been having the play up? It's just straight play action. It's not an RPO, right?
No, it's straight play action.
I mean, the offensive line's not shooting out and all of that.
No, because
if that's an RPO with Pacheco back there,
yeah.
And Mahomes has taken some blame for this in the past, but if Mahomes sees 5v5 and Isaiah Pacheco gets to be 1v grass there, I would really hope he would just put it in Pacheco's chest and just let him go ahead and
yeah.
Man, you give me Isaiah Pacheco 6v5 in front of him, and I feel pretty good about him picking up a yard there. It's frustrating. Yeah. It's a frustrating one. I'm glad that that's a mistake that we're talking about as being frustrating, and not one that we're talking about as being a game loser.
Because they had 2 timeouts left, and if they pick up the 1st down there, you're 1 first down away from essentially icing it. And even if you don't pick up that 1st down, Miami would have no timeouts and like a minute 15 to go, and they'd be getting the ball at their own like 30-yard line, needing a touchdown. It didn't end up mattering in the end. The concern is that, does it matter in the playoffs? Does it matter in a game where it's a 3rd down and short and a have to have it, and you don't pick it up, and you end up either punting and then a score happens, or you don't pick it up and then you can't get it on 4th down or something along the lines there. Or maybe it's even a play in the 3rd quarter or something that you end up kicking a field goal, and it's like, well, that could have been the difference in the game.
You usually got to have a few of those to win a Super Bowl. Usually a few of those if you've got to clutch out and got to have it moments.
Yeah. And I think it can be a little, as we'll take a break, but I think it can be a little unfair just for full context. We are focusing on that one play because it was so late in the game, because it had a lot. I mean, we had seen some of the frustrations of the offense throughout the day. They hadn't scored in the second half. They had 50 yards or something in the second half total. And on that, you felt like just hand it off and be more powerful. The Chiefs were 3 of 10 on 3rd downs. But 5 yards or fewer, they were 3 of 4. That's the only 3rd down they did not get with 5 yards or fewer, was that 3rd down and 1. They picked up the 3rd down and 2 with the Sky Moore 10 yards on the first drive. They picked up the 3rd down and 5 with the 6-yard pass to Rashee Rice. And the 3rd down and 3 was the Jerick McKinnon touchdown for 17 yards. This was a 3rd and 1. Over 5 yards, they were obviously 0 for 6. Those were 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 9. They didn't really have like a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 7. And Miami, in their defense, they were also 3 of 4 on 3rd down, 5 yards or fewer. But they were 0 for 8 on third downs of 6 yards or more. So the two teams combined on third down to go 6 of 8 from 5 yards or fewer and 0 of 14 on third down more than 5 yards.
Can I give you a fun Dolphins offense, Chiefs defense stat?
Yes.
Benjamin Solak tweeted this out a little bit ago. The Dolphins' average snap was 10.1 yards from the first down marker. It's the third highest single game mark for any team this year. The Dolphins' average snap was an inch behind where you would usually start your drive.
And their average third down was 12.25 yards.
That was the stat I was looking for because I could not find that number again, and I just saw Solak. Wow. I mean, everything was far.
The average third down is 2 yards behind where the set of downs started.
It's amazing.
That's how good the Chiefs look. They gave up some plays, but one of the things that we've talked about with this defense is if you are making teams that are explosive drive down the field for 7, 8, 9 play drives, the odds of them doing that while keeping everything in front of you and not committing a penalty, which the Dolphins did, or not having negative plays, which the Chiefs forced, it's rare. And it happened once. One time the Dolphins had the ball and a long extended drive. They got the ball at the 25. They scored a touchdown. The other touchdown drive, they got the ball at 30. And they scored a touchdown with some help from Chris Jones on a 3rd and 20. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. We continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. Let's get to some of the texts coming in. 913-912-4810. Text says, I'm still in Frankfurt listening to you now. Was at the game yesterday. Conservatively, 6-1 to 8-1 Chiefs fans over Miami fans. Eurohead is a good description. It felt like that.
I'd be curious what the ratio is if it's Chiefs fans to Dolphins fans to kind of neutral fans. It still seemed very, very Chiefs heavy and like a legit awesome environment.
Text says, you can't have a 98-yard punt return for a touchdown without catching the ball at the 2.
Great point.
I mean, why didn't you think of that, Josh?
Why did Dave Tobe text in again?
Text says, I so wanted Cook to flash the peace sign while he was high-stepping into the end zone after the Tyreek fumble.
Oh, that would have been so sick.
I haven't even thought about that until you just said that, and man, that would have been the icing chef's kiss on top of just an amazing play of just if he'd have done the peace side going into the end zone. Oh, man.
Did we talk
Good
about
call.
that on Friday? Did we talk about that on Friday with Stu Dillon? I can't remember. We talked about that somewhere. Oh, man, but I didn't think about it on the – that would have been perfect. Oh, it would have been perfect.
Text says, so we think Tobe told him to return it no matter what? I think Dave Tobe said we need a spark, which is what Andy Reid said, flip the field position. I think Dave Tobe was like, hey, we're trying to flip the field position. And maybe it was sort of an understood don't return the ball inside the 5-yard line. But McColl in his mind was, no, this is a punt that is not high. It's more of a longer punt, which gives me room to return it. This is an opportunity to flip the field while staring up at the air, not peripherally seeing, okay, I'm at the 10, okay, I'm at the 6, okay, I'm at the 4. Because if he's seeing that, then he's not watching the ball. So I think in his mind was return it, low punt, more line drive, not as much loft. Okay, let's return this thing.
I really do understand special teams as a way to provide a spark. I think that's a fun way for it to stay involved. But when you're in like your basement surrounded by hay, maybe you don't want a spark. Like that's what it feels like. It feels like every time the Chiefs are trying to catch a spark, eventually the house burns down, and it feels unnecessary.
Text says, Chiefs have built the kind of defense they hate to face. I love that text.
Yeah.
Because it's you have to drive. You have to 8 and 9 play drives, and a penalty or a negative play can end that drive for you. And we aren't seeing as much third and Mahomes. We didn't see third and Mahomes in this game at all. Because, again, third down and 6 yards or more in the game for the Chiefs, they were 0 of 6. third down and 5 or fewer is more of your traditional third down conversions. They were 3 of 4, except for the one that people are focusing the most on, which is that 3rd and 1. Even though 3rd and 2 on the first drive was pretty crucial, and Sky Moore got 10 yards. 3rd and 5 on the 95-yard drive was incredibly crucial because Rashee Rice had the 6-yard catch and the diving catch for the first down. And 3rd and 3 to Jerick McKinnon was big because it was a 4-point play. Because up 7-0. Anybody want to raise their hand and think Andy Reid goes for it on 4th and 3 if that's incomplete? It is 10-0. He's putting points on the board, going up double digits over the Miami Dolphins the way his defense is playing. That was a 4-point conversion on that 3rd and 3. It turned out to be a 7-point conversion with Rashee Rice earlier in the drive, and a 7-point conversion with Sky Moore on the 3rd and 2. Those are big time plays that they converted. The last one could have helped ice the game. It didn't, but it didn't cost them. I think those other third downs not being converted would have cost them. But the defenses did a really good job on early downs, forcing longer third downs. Because the Chiefs were 0 of 6 on 3rd down and 6 or longer. 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 9. Didn't convert any of them. And the Miami Dolphins, the only 3 third down conversions they had were 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5, and then 3rd and 6. Or 3rd and 5. 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 5. They did not convert 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 27, 3rd and 10. And that's the first and second down defense that Spagnuolo has talked about with teams that are more aggressive and go for it on 4th down, in that you've got to play great football on 1st and 2nd down to put them in a position to where it's 3rd and long and it doesn't set up a 4th and a manageable, and then they are punting. And that's exactly what they did, because on 3rd and 20, it was a pass to Jeff Wilson, and he picked up 10 yards. On 3rd and 17, it was a Tua scramble for 7 yards. Both of those ended up being 4th and 10. On 3rd and 20, it was a pass to Jeff Wilson for 10 yards. Ended up being 4th and 10. 3rd and 27 incomplete, 3rd and 10 incomplete. 3rd and 15 was a 3-yard swing pass to Ahmed. 4th and 12. They're not going for it. Those were plays that were set up by 1st down and 2nd down negative plays, and the Chiefs defense was brilliant on that.
Which, again, I caught myself thinking how funny it is that this is something I'm warning about being redundant, and I know we're beating a dead horse and all of that. But the thing I was going to be redundant about is that the Chiefs defense has been so good at every depth, at every level, like front to back and side to side.
Yes.
We talked about it some on Friday. The corners in particular being good and very willing tacklers. Trent McDuffie, of course, is a master at it on another level.
Yes.
But the entire secondary, good and willing tacklers. The linebackers, all smart and athletic. The defensive line, deep and incredibly talented. There was just never a time and maybe I'm the outlier here. Even in the second half, when the Dolphins' offense was starting to look more like itself, I never thought the bottom was going to fall out because that run defense was consistent. It was holding in those edges, and there were some plays that were close. The Dolphins had a couple of near, plays that have busted into bigger touchdowns against other teams, where Tyreek Hill has shrugged off a safety and taken a 7-yard gain for 70. But I just never had that nervousness about the defense. I did have it about the Chiefs' offense, which is, again, weird, and I'm not fully comfortable in that space still.
The defense is so good that the 2 runs by Mostert on the final drive were a real surprise. Shocking. That they were. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the Dolphins, before they were down 7 with 2 minutes to go, and the Chiefs playing a pass first, they had 73 rushing yards on the day. They picked up 44 on their final 2 rushing attempts with Mostert, 25 and 19. So final 2 rushing attempts when the Chiefs were saying, we're playing strictly the pass. And good on McDaniel recognizing that and saying, okay, well, now we can gash him here. Okay, now let's go and hit one. And the blocking and Mostert, good on them as well. But they pick up 25 yards before the 2-minute warning. Okay, they pick up 19 yards on another play. Great. And then it got into the area to where you're not running it anymore, and the Chiefs stopped them and did what they had to do. And guys made plays all over the field. Let's bring in Mac to the conversation, waiting patiently to join the show. Mac, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, real quick. So I watched the game yesterday at a bar. I couldn't hear the commentary. I hate watching in a bar, but anyway, this might be plowed ground. What's the difference between the Tyreek fumble and the Super Bowl scoop and score that was called back for lack of a football move?
The Tyreek having the ball a little bit longer, having it in his possession, having more steps down. Tyreek had the ball a pretty decent amount longer than Miles Sanders did. So I really didn't think there was a question. And it wasn't a question by the refs either because they didn't even review it. They just confirmed it. So I think he had the ball for a pretty decent amount of time and was moving his feet and still fighting McDuffie while holding the football, which is a pretty decent football move.
I was a little worried.
Were you?
Yeah, I mean, it's NFL referees.
Well, anytime when they start discussing it, I was a little worried. Yeah, I shouldn't say I wasn't worried. I was a little worried. But they didn't even review it. They just went ahead and confirmed it and kicked the extra point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious about that because McDuffie hit him instant. He never turned upfield. He immediately started moving backwards due to McDuffie hitting him. And I'm a Chiefs fan. It's great, but I don't know. It was.
I think the difference. I think the difference is when Snead hit Miles Sanders in the Super Bowl, the ball immediately jarred loose, and while McDuffie hit Tyreek a little bit earlier than what Snead hit Miles Sanders, the ball never jarred loose. Like Tyreek Hill had the ball, was still fighting with McDuffie while moving his legs, and then as McDuffie's going down, he rips the football down with him. I think that's the main difference is when contact happened, the receiver held onto the ball while contact happened was the football move was sort of fighting away. Miles Sanders was just starting to tuck the ball away when Snead hit him and the ball popped loose.
Yeah, I get it. I just was curious. And, the fact the Dolphins didn't try to, red flag it or whatever. But I was furious in the Super Bowl because it's idiotic in my mind.
It looked like a catch to me in the Super Bowl. But
it was a catch. Are you supposed to stop and let the guy run? Anyway, I'm plowing old ground. But, yeah, okay, thanks for clearing it up.
Mac, I appreciate it, man. And the Dolphins wouldn't have been able to challenge it. That's why, the officials just went ahead and confirmed it because they looked at it and said that is a catch and a fumble. The closest one that was a discrepancy in my mind is the MVS fumble against Denver. Is pretty close to the Miles Sanders one in the Super Bowl because MVS comes down with the ball. He's got 2 feet. His third foot is just now touching as the ball is being tucked away, and he's hit, and the ball comes loose. Miles Sanders catches the ball, has 2 feet down. His third one is just now hitting as he's tucking the ball away, and then he's hitting the ball comes loose. One was confirmed that's a fumble. The other one was confirmed it's an incomplete pass. It's like you're telling me when you slow it down, there's one extra frame in a slow motion as to what's a catch and what's not a catch. Like it looked almost the same, but if they were going to lose one game because of that and win the other, I'm glad it turned out the way that it did with them winning the game in the Super Bowl and losing against the Broncos. Oh well.
If it's plowing old ground, the NFL's always going to have a chance for us to discuss the fact that we still don't know what actually constitutes a catch. Yep. That's not your fault.
But I know what constitutes a badass player, and that's a guy that wears number 22 for the Chiefs. And a number of other guys that are wearing different jerseys for the Chiefs because Willie Gay made a couple phenomenal plays. In the fourth quarter, there were 6 minutes to go, 21-14, the Chiefs were leading, and the Dolphins had the ball at the 38-yard line, and they had picked up first downs. And on 1st and 10, they pitched the ball to Ahmed, and Willie Gay shot through the hole, and it was a 6-yard loss. That's a sack.
Yep.
There are sacks that you don't lose 6 yards on. It was a 6-yard loss on that play. And 2 plays later, they punt.
The next play, it was actually a sack.
Yeah, that was when they blitzed.
3rd and 26.
They blitzed McDuffie, but Turk Wharton got there.
Split a double team as far as I could tell. That was a hell of a snap from Turk.
That's right. And they got the sack there, and then they end up punting the football. But they were just simply driving down the field, and then that play happens. Early in the game, too, the Chiefs were up 7-0. and the Dolphins had picked up some first downs, and they got to the 42-yard line. They threw an incomplete pass on what was an attempted back shoulder throw to Cedric Wilson that they weren't on the same page. And then 2nd and 10, and I tweeted this out at the time. If you go back and watch that 2nd and 10 play, at the snap, the second the ball is snapped, Leo Chanel turns to his left and starts running to his left. And after Leo Chanel is running to his left, Tua pitches the ball to Mostert. Chanel ends up making the tackle for no gain. The snap, Chanel immediately ran where he knew the ball was going. That is spending a week of film study, film study, film study, film study, film study. Now, this is the subconscious part, and we'll take a time out on this, but this is where I kind of get into the point of, I know it's fun for the NFL players to say we approach every single game the same and every single game the same.
Yeah.
I don't think the Broncos and different things like that are as close to like small little indicators and how much time you're putting in. The fact that the Chiefs saw so many of the Dolphins plays happening before they actually happened tells me a lot of what they did this past week. They won that game on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because of all the film study, and then go out and execute and make plays. Trust your eyes and your instincts, and they did that. Willie Gay, Trent McDuffie, Leo Chanel, and a host of other players that were just ready for the challenge, and they were phenomenal. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. And then we got to learn funniest best before the show is over. No Andy Reid today. And no Mick Schaefer. He is on a plane from Germany. As we speak, he's on a plane to Denver. And he's going to spend his off week there. Maybe not. I doubt it. He's excited about having to fly to Denver.
Does Taylor Swift have a show in Denver? I don't understand.
No, I think they're down in South America. I think Travis Kelce's going to be down there with her for a few days.
Can we somehow get the combination of the Chiefs playing international games and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to get more international flights right out of Kansas City? I'd really appreciate that.
It's about time that happens with the new airport. Come on.
I feel like that should be cooking. What, is that difficult to arrange?
Direct flights. How is this an issue?
To like everywhere in the world, please.
Yeah, come on. Private planes.
Get this done.
Seriously, it's Taylor Swift.
delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com. He'll help you fantasy focus while he scoops the news. He's on TV more often than he's in bed. He'll break down the NFL without a single hair ever out of place. It's Field Yates of ESPN. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. That's right, let's talk with Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider, joining us here in the zone. Field, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. No German greeting for me, Jason?
You know what? Did the Sunday sound off last night on local NBC affiliate, and asked the same thing when I was like, Jason, welcome in. Hey, what's up? No German. I'm like, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't take the time to. You know what? My German is a 9. That
9. Okay.
Apparently is no.
That means none? What does that mean?
No, 9. I don't know. It may mean the number 9. I'm not sure. I know
nothing. I know what the Guten Tag, Dankeschön.
Yeah, that's right. Tannenbaum. That's what we'll be putting up this weekend. That's all I know. I also don't know the conversion because when Rashee Rice scored the touchdown to start the game off on the opening drive for the Chiefs, and Bradley Chubb held onto his waist and was dragged for about 5 yards, which was impressive. I said that Bradley Chubb just took a $5 Uber ride on Rashee Rice, and then somebody replied and said, "Yeah, but what's the conversion to euros?" I'm like, I should have thought about that too. Damn it, should have said that's
euros. Geez, I can barely do conversions between dollars and cents here in the U.S.
I know.
Foreign knowledge is certainly no better.
Right. So I had to look it up, and it's like 0.93 or something. So it would have been like $4.70 euro. Uber ride for Bradley Chubb on Rashee Rice. All right, so what's your reaction and takeaway to the Chiefs and Dolphins in Germany? Chiefs get the win 21-14. A really weird game because both offenses went an entire half without scoring, which is what everybody expected in this game. But 21-14, okay. Chiefs get the win.
Yeah, the tale of two halves, quite literally, right? I mean, the Chiefs dominate the first half, the Dolphins control the second half, but certainly not enough to get that dub. I just can't imagine, I can't believe that we are having conversations now after several years of talking about the Chiefs' offense coasting through teams where they are still winning football games, but the offense, relative to its own standard, is stuck in the mud. It's hard to be too hard on the Chiefs when you continue to find ways to win, but offensively, it feels like, I don't know that necessarily some of the things that have been plaguing them are bound to get a whole lot better. But I don't know that it matters. When you just keep finding ways to win, it's a sign of a good football team. It's different than the way the Chiefs have played for the past half decade or so. But I think it's a resourceful team. That much is for sure. And defensively, if they could hold Miami to 14 points, and it wasn't like it was a bunch of turnovers and fluky plays. That was just a good, hard-fought defensive effort. If they can hold Miami to 14 points, they can do that to anybody in the entire NFL.
Yeah, and to me, one of my assessments as we started the show today, Field, was – I think it's probably time. I mean, we're halfway through the season at this point to the bye week for the Chiefs. That it's probably time where we just sort of change the scope or the sights on what we think of this Chiefs team. That they are just a really balanced team. They're not going to be a team that goes out and scores 35 points week in and week out with Patrick Mahomes or average 30 points per game offensively. But they are a team that the defense can match up with any offense in the NFL that we saw with, the Dolphins and what they've done at different times this year and the Chargers and holding teams to under 20 points constantly. And they are a team that's just balanced, but also a team that's really, really good defensively, that's going to be top 5 defense, and they've shown that. And an offense that, probably top 10 somewhere and still has Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So, it's not a one-sided number 1 offense and number 15 or 16 defense. It might just be a number 4 defense and a number 6 offense, and that can get you a Super Bowl.
It sure can, and I would say important to that point that I was making earlier about the Chiefs, just keep on finding ways to win, is that these games against teams in other divisions that are going to be likely AFC playoff teams like Miami are so important because the path to the number 1 seed for Kansas City is just so different than everybody else. Yes, the Chiefs have some difficult games left on their schedule for the rest of the regular season, but the resistance that they're going to face within their own division is so minimal. Meanwhile, depending on how things shake out tonight, the Dolphins could be one of 3 teams in the AFC East with a winning record. The entire AFC North is currently in the playoffs. Not that they start today, but if they did, they would be. So Baltimore, Miami, Buffalo, Cincinnati, I think all the teams that fancy themselves as potential number 1 seeds in the AFC have a much different road to hoe over the next 9 weeks than the Chiefs do because of the fact that they play in what is a very watered-down division relative to the AFC East and the AFC North.
And they have the Eagles, the Bills, and the Bengals all at home the rest of the way. So that's certainly
tough stretch, obviously.
Yeah. But they've got them at home. They go to L.A. or Vegas. They go to Vegas. They go to New England. They go to Green Bay, and then at the end of the season, they'll head to L.A. against the Chargers. But those big games, Eagles, Bills, and Bengals, are all at home, and that's crucial. And it's funny, one of the callers to the post game last night, or yesterday morning, I apologize. One of the callers to the post game yesterday morning said that Tyreek Hill was mad that this game wasn't in an Arrowhead. Maybe his fumble and scoop and score for the Chiefs helped him in a playoff game get to play in Arrowhead.
Hey, that could be the case.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, Aaron get a push afterwards. That's right. Yeah, well said by that person right there. Good thinking on the caller's part.
Yes, no doubt about that. Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. So as we look around, and you mentioned a lot of the different teams in the AFC and things like that, and it is a really, really good AFC. The Bengals look really good, and the Ravens look really good. I didn't know that Joe Burrow would be able to return and look 100% from the calf injury as quickly as he's able to do that. And there hasn't been the re-injury, and he looks 100%, and they look like a driven, focused team. They're 4-0 in the last 4 weeks. He's got 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and they beat the Bills last night. They beat the 49ers last week. I thought the Bengals were in real trouble because of the injury to Joe Burrow, but they look legit, and they look like they are back to being the Bengals that we thought they would look like before the season started.
Yeah, they do. And the thing about the Cincinnati Bengals is different than I think the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills and Miami, for that matter. And the Jaguars. Let's throw them into the conversation as well. I erred in not including them just a few moments ago when discussing the AFC sort of top class. But the difference between Cincinnati and the rest of those teams is that Cincinnati has gone to Kansas City, won at Arrowhead in the playoffs, and then, of course, last year, a competitive game as well. That was not an easy victory for the Chiefs. So they have proven to the world and to themselves that they can beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. It's one of those teams that, the focus has to be on themselves when they struggle through the first few weeks of the season, as they seem to do every single year for reasons that I do not know. But they are certainly playing their best football of the season right now. Because of the division they play in, their schedule is very unique going forward. They have not yet played Pittsburgh. They've lost to both the Ravens and the Browns. So they could conceivably go 12-5 and not win their own division because of tiebreakers or just because the Ravens might just keep on playing the way that they do. But certainly the confidence is soaring right now for Cincinnati. Hard to pinpoint on paper what this team doesn't do well right now. Feels to me, as long as Joe Burrow keeps up the streak of play that he has been on over the past month or so, this team should find itself very comfortably in the playoff mix.
Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. I want to talk about a couple of quarterbacks, one that changed teams and one that joined the NFL this year, but one that changed teams, Josh Dobbs, and the win over the Falcons. He comes in relief of Hall, and he goes 20 of 30, 150 yards, a couple of touchdowns, picks up almost 70 yards on the ground, another touchdown, lost a couple of fumbles along the way, but no interceptions, and just generally looked like he had control of the offense while asking guys in the huddle field what he was supposed to do. It's one of the more incredible stories of a guy getting there, not taking snaps, not knowing the offense, and going out there and just playing quarterback.
It's pretty incredible. And, separate apart from who you root for, and obviously I know who the majority of people that are listening to this interview right now root for, this is what makes sports, I think, great. It's what I think makes football such a special, special sport. And I have to give so much credit to not just Josh Dobbs, that's obvious because he was remarkable yesterday given the circumstances, but the coaching staff there. He was giving his it wasn't an interview, but he was addressing his new teammates in the locker room post-game. I happened to catch the video that the team shared on Twitter, and he talked about how one member of the offensive coaching staff spent 5 hours with Josh Dobbs on Friday, going through sort of everything he needed to know about that offense. And I don't know how much experience that coach has, whether he has a family or not, but Friday is the one day of the week that you get as a coach to maybe get home by like 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And instead, that coach who he mentioned, I believe Garrett was the first name. So Grant, who was the assistant quarterbacks coach for the Minnesota Vikings, spent his Friday instead with Josh Dobbs. And he had a very important assignment that he aced. And it's a team game, no two ways about that. But very, very impressive by Josh Dobbs. And this Vikings team all of a sudden has a lot of life right now in the NFC playoff picture because there are just so few teams that are actually legitimate right now in the NFC.
There's a lot of time for, quarterbacks to develop and systems and years to where we see, what quarterbacks might be franchise guys or good enough to win in the NFL or just don't have it. C.J. Stroud has been playing some awesome football, and what he did yesterday was just brilliance. And in the second half, having a perfect quarterback rating, almost a perfect quarterback rating for the game. But this isn't like, look, 470 and 5 is ridiculous, for anybody. If Patrick Mahomes had 470 and 5, it'd be like, wow, what an amazing game. So the fact that it's a rookie doing that, so I am not diminishing that. What I'm saying is that, it wasn't as big of a surprise if he had been struggling throughout the year and he put something together. The 470 and 5 and how he played, to me, was just more of, okay, this is how good he really can be at times, given what we've already seen, the success that he's had so far this year in a team that, was thought to maybe have a top 5, top 10 pick in the NFL. How great, I'm assuming a lot, but how great did the Texans feel about the decision they made for Stroud? And I do wonder if there's some questions going on around Carolina if they flipped the coin and it came up the wrong side.
Yeah, Jason, we will never know the answer on the Carolina side until someone gets fired, right? Because no one's going to say it out loud right now while they're still a part of the organization and Bryce Young is still the quarterback there. And there's plenty of time for Bryce Young to come around and end up being an awesome player. Not everybody is what C.J. Stroud has been or what Patrick Mahomes was during his first full year as a starter. There are many, many, many quarterbacks who take a lot more time to develop. There was a time in which we thought that the Texans beating the Colts late last season was one of the most impactful plays in potentially half a decade or so, because having the number 2 overall pick meant such a different dynamic in play than having the number 1 overall pick. Perhaps we were mistaken, because perhaps that touchdown pass that was thrown, some random tight end that gave the Texans the win, maybe that really was the football gods smiling on Houston without us realizing it at the time. But C.J. Stroud's so impressive.
Yeah.
And, I think there's so many different things to love about it. The eye test is incredibly favorable to him. What does stand out, and this is without having, really broken down the tape, so to speak, from yesterday, is that, who is he throwing it to? Tank Dell's a good-looking third-round pick, and Nico Collins, another third-round pick, was a solid player, but it's not like this is an offensive line that's been healthy at all for much of this season. Beyond that, you've got a running game that's non-existent. Beyond that, you've got a receiving core that's solid, but there's not a single all-pro in that group. It's so impressive. Circumstantially, it just felt like one of the remarkable performances of the season, and truly, truly impressive situational football there by C.J. Stroud. I'm very, very, very happy for the Texans. They certainly have themselves a long-term answer at quarterback.
Visiting with Field Yates from ESPN. Last one for you, Field. How much of the Giants and Raiders game, and the Raiders beating them 30-6, how much of that was, the Giants have struggled at times this year, And how much was it that was a Raiders team and players that felt maybe a black cloud lift, and they went out there and just had some fun and played football because they dominated the Giants. And then post-game sort of felt like, man, they hated Josh McDaniels. They did not like that guy.
I mean, you want to be wary because you don't want this to be what we saw with the Colts last year, who incidentally, in Jeff Saturday's first game as the interim head coach, beat the Raiders. And then they lost every game after that for the rest of the season. So I am going to put some stock, but not too much stock, in this Raiders victory yesterday. They have a lot of work to do ahead, and that includes playing the Jets next Sunday night. That Jets defense, obviously, is the real deal. Will be a major, major challenge for the Raiders. But, I would say this. It is a step in the right direction. It's a reminder that we continue to be very, very, very poor at predicting which assistant coaches will be very good head coaches, other than those that have already been a head coach previously and show that they are successful at being a head coach. So when the head coaching cycle runs its course in January and February of the upcoming year, I think my answer will be no matter who is hired, unless that person has been very successful as a head coach before, I'm not sure. Because time and again, we realize that finding a really good head coach is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. I also, I wonder when maybe Max Crosby might be getting a little more Defensive Player of the Year love. Right now, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's the 7th, or he's tied for the 5th best odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. So if you wanted to go put plus 3,000 for Max Crosby to win Defensive Player of the Year, the guy who had another 3 sacks yesterday, 3 tackles for loss, another 6 tackles, he has been unbelievable this year, has Max Crosby. So
he sure has been. Yeah, if you look at the guys and then the sack leaders, he's the only one with more than 50 tackles. I mean, and I know the tackles can often be considered a counting stat. For defensive linemen, though, it's a byproduct of, I would say, I'd say like that's determination, that's persistence, that's pursuit. So he's so dang impressive.
He's unbelievable. So are you. Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. Field, you're the man. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the football this week. We'll enjoy just sitting back watching and seeing what happens. And then we'll talk next week when the Chiefs get their second half started with a Monday Night Football game against the Eagles 2 weeks from today.
Too early to call it the game of the year? Too soon?
Maybe. I don't know. I like it anyway. 2-week build-up for the game of the year. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we'll take it. I just remember being a part of our schedule release show back in May, and we felt at ESPN like we would hit the jackpot because I don't know that there is a game that I'm more excited about than that one, which, of course, we played on ESPN 2 weeks from today.
It just feels like 2 weeks leading up to Chiefs-Eagles feels like overkill. And we were going to talk about, like, Travis and Jason Kelsey's mom or something.
When's the last time we've had a 2-week lead up for Chiefs and Eagles?
We're going to run out of material for sure.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. And you know what?
I was going to say, it's been a whole 8 months since we did
right.
this, or 9 months since we did this, right? Yeah.
Only difference with the news coming down about an hour ago, Dallas Goedert will not be playing in that game as he just had he's having surgery on that fractured forearm that he suffered last night.
And Taylor Swift wasn't involved last time. That's more material for us.
Goddard,
we'll be fine.
I mean,
there we go.
Field Goddard out of the game and Taylor Swift a part of it. I mean, is it even going to be close? I don't know. Just put the house on whatever it is. Field, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir, as always.
Do it again next week, gentlemen. Can't wait.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN. Great stuff from him. 2 weeks from today, Chiefs and Eagles. And as he was talking about the schedule release, it was like, all right, Chiefs, Eagles, when's that game going to be? It's going to be week 10, 11. This was week 9, so week 11?
They are now 9 games in, then a bye in 10, and the game in 11. There you go, week 11.
They played the second earliest game of week 9, and they will play the final game of week 11. So they will go as long as the stretch of games in between the Chiefs from their last game to the bye, to the first game after the bye. So you got a little bit longer to wait after the bye week of having a little Monday Night Football action, but yeah, it is unfortunate for the Eagles, the news coming down after last night. And it looked like Dallas Goedert knew it immediately when he got tackled. His hand and wrist wasn't moving, and he just started holding his arm. I thought he dislocated his elbow because of the way that he landed, because his arm was outstretched, and the defender landed right on the elbow. And I thought, oh, man, he dislocated his elbow or something. I'm like, well, maybe this will be a Justin Watson type thing. And then, you find out that he fractures his forearm and he's out at least 4 weeks having surgery today. That's unfortunate for them. But the Chiefs will, benefit from that. I hate injuries. I mean, I want to go through a season with injuries turned off and just see what happens, man. Let the chips fall where they may and the best teams win. And yeah, I want to see a repeat of the Chiefs and Eagles with Dallas Goedert out there and see because I want the Chiefs defense to go up against that Eagles offense and say, this is the Eagles offense at their best. A.J. Brown's playing unbelievable football. Jalen Hurts is now hobbled with a knee injury. He hurt his knee again last night. Stayed in the game, but it's the second time in 3 weeks that he's hurt his knee, and he's just not running as much anymore this year. So that takes a lot away from what the Eagles and Jalen Hurts provides, although he's playing some phenomenal football throwing the ball. It's a different feel, I think, offensively, the Eagles coming to town against the Chiefs, and both teams on a bye this week, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They'll both have the long recovery, and no Goddard, no Bolton is there's something off each side of that side of the ball. So
it's a great point.
Obviously, again, I'm trying to do a little bit of that injury math.
Yeah.
If both teams are a little worse off, maybe it's still going to be a legitimate Super Bowl rematch and potentially a legitimate Super Bowl preview.
And I'm glad that Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, Jalen Ramsey, and Xavier Howard all played yesterday.
Yep.
That we talked about. I said, I want them to play. I want all these guys to play. Now, maybe Teron Armstead and Connor Williams 8 weeks from now will be better and less rusty, certainly. Maybe Jalen Ramsey a month if they match up in January at Arrowhead. Maybe Jalen Ramsey will be much better and quicker than what he's playing right now, and he was fine yesterday. Who knows? But I'm just glad they played, so it wasn't they were missing their left tackle, their center. Jalen Ramsey was out. Xavier Howard was missing in the game. No, they played, and the Chiefs' offense certainly would have looked better if Ramsey and Xavier Howard did not play. I think they would have looked a little bit better. But they did, and we get a decent assessment of those teams against each other.
I also think I'm getting maybe more squeamish in terms of injuries. I haven't even rewatched the Goddard thing, and I don't think that was the most horrifying.
I mean, you really can't tell. When he lands, it looks like it might have been, but it wasn't anything gross. We're like, oh,
but
no.
Every time now, and there was a time, and maybe it was just because I hadn't seen enough bad ones, when it was like, we're not even going to show this replay. It's like, all right. I mean, it'll be on Twitter in 5 seconds, and now it's like, we're not even going to show you the replay. It's that level of gruesome. I'm like, cool, thank you. I'm going to go delete the Twitter app from my phone for 30 minutes and come back when it feels like it might be safe again. I have not seen the Nick Chubb hit still, and I'm cool with it.
Oh, really?
Yep. And don't feel like you need to pull it up. It's okay.
You're cool with it, and I watch from the corner. I watch that shit from the corner.
Which one of us is the weirdo?
Yes. But yeah, there's look, last 2 weeks, the Vikings have had, an Achilles injury.
Yep, and that just came down a minute ago. Cam Akers officially done for the year.
Torn Achilles. Last time they played, Kirk Cousins torn Achilles.
Yeah.
Now Cam Akers was starting to get more work than Alexander Mattison too. So he was starting to slowly grow into the role of maybe he's your better running back. But a torn Achilles for him, torn Achilles for Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson still on the mend with that team. So the fact that they got the win on the road against Atlanta is pretty phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
Some gutsy stuff.
Incredible. If you haven't seen some of the clips of the sideline little workout of Josh Dobbs taking his literal first snaps in a Vikings uniform, it's happening on the sidelines. It's really ridiculous.
And the stories of in the huddle.
Yep.
Jordan Addison after the game talking about in the huddle, the wide receivers were telling Jordan Addison what routes they were running.
Telling Josh Dobbs.
The wide receivers were telling Josh Dobbs what routes they were running when the play was called. And on the headset, they were getting the call in quickly. Kevin O'Connell and them were trying to get the call in quickly because the headsets turn off at 15 seconds?
I think it's 15, yeah.
So he gave the play call, trying to get it in quickly so that when Josh Dobbs got to the line of scrimmage, Kevin O'Connell could still talk to him.
It's amazing.
They could still be in his ear and talk a little bit through what was happening.
That was the McVay Goff thing early on, right? That they were doing that. But it was way less literal. I think Jared Goff knew the plays by and large. Josh Dobbs, literally, not an exaggeration, didn't know the names of the plays. He didn't know the names of his teammates.
It's like, just called him by the nose. Like Bobby Bowden at the end of his time at Florida State. Didn't know the name of his players, just called him by numbers in the postgame. Well, number 24 had himself a pretty good day.
Are you Justin Jefferson? Are you Justin Jefferson? Where's Justin Jefferson? I thought he was a Viking. He's where?
And I'm not saying when I asked Field Yates about the Raiders, I'm not saying the Raiders will just turn it on and play off some football. That's not what I'm saying. And I understand where he took it. It was like, I'm a little weary because the Colts beat the Raiders last year with Jeff Saturday, and then they lost every game after that.
Sorry, they beat who again? Who was
But it's not even about what they do the rest of the way. It's about the reaction from the team after the game was over, and what's is pretty clear how much they disliked that man.
It'll be about an hour, but we'll hear Jay Glazer's report. I will make sure of that. And it is. There was the fake report going around about like the fortune cookie and all of that, like a PFT thing, and it was all funny. The actual story of what happened in that front office, in that locker room, might be crazier.
Like the Antonio Pierce story?
Yeah. The airing, the Festivus story is what it'll be something in my LFB, and I'll play it later. But
it's not the one about the Patriots and the Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, it's all of that all
I'll
together.
leave that for
but
LFB.
We could talk about it now and then still play it because there's so much in Glazer's report of just how thin-skinned Josh McDaniels seems. And
I mean, the dude can't even give an example of when he was with the Giants because it was against the Patriots. Like, let it go, dude. You're not in the Patriots. Tom Brady ain't walking through that door. Well, if he does, he's going to be an owner.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to walk through that door to come fire you.
If he does, he's going to be in the owner's box, dude.
And this is his second job, too. Like, some of these stories for former Patriots assistants, they go in and they try to Patriot a little too hard and all right, let's see if you can adjust from that, whatever.
He patrioted too hard.
He patrioted a little too close to the sun. Right. But he's been hired 3 times. The Colts tried to make him a head coach, and he said no after saying yes, allegedly.
And then the Broncos, and then the Raiders. You know what?
Raiders, we got to have him.
One more to make that round in the AFC West. Chargers fire Brandon Staley. You need to bring an offensive mind in there. What better offensive mind than Josh McDaniels? Go ahead. And the Chiefs can just have their tour of the Josh McDaniels coached AFC West teams.
If that means that they got to have Josh McDaniels for 1 season after Andy Reid retires, I think I might still sign up for it for just how much bliss it has brought me to have him in the AFC West this much.
That would be brutal.
Give him 3 years with Justin Herbert. Let's see if Justin Herbert retires.
Absolutely brutal. And I'm serious about if you guys want to go to DraftKings, I'm just saying this. Max Crosby right now is plus 3,000 to win Defensive Player of the Year. And if the Raiders were better, he would be the leading candidate for if he was on the 49ers doing what he's doing, I think he'd be the Defensive Player of the Year leading candidate. Micah Parsons is the favorite, then Myles Garrett after that, and then TJ Watt, and then Aiden Hutchinson, and then Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, and Max Crosby are all tied at plus 3,000. I don't think Max Crosby and Chris Jones should be tied.
No, I don't.
I like his odds better than Aiden Hutchinson. That's
Me
for
too.
Sure.
I made a face when you said Aiden Hutchinson.
I totally agree. Chris Jones has been good this year, and he's had some dominant plays. Max Crosby has just been a game wrecker constantly. Tackles for loss. Tackles, like you said, he's got 9.5 sacks and almost 60 tackles on the season. The strip sacks, the tackles for loss. He had another 3 tackles for loss yesterday against the Giants. He's just been, he's the Anaconda, right? Isn't that his name?
I don't know.
Because of the arms?
The condor.
Condor.
I was like, you said that. I was like, well, anacondas don't have any arms, so that would be a weird one.
Yeah. And his anaconda doesn't want none. Unless got buns, hon. And he's doing the side bends and sit-ups.
You can get Gardner Minshew for at plus 50,000 to win MVP.
I'm not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
I am not going to do that. But the condor, thank you. Thank you, Dylan.
I'll tell you what, an anacondor would be terrifying. Maybe that's his nickname. Maybe Max Crosby needs to be the anacondor.
Yes, and that's
snake with wings.
That's what he's playing like right now. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and you know what?
I don't want none.
I want to get into a few of the other things that happened over the weekend, like the college football that took place.
Oh yeah,
and Kansas City continuing to show that St. Louis is the sport's little brother to Kansas City.
Arches down!
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco. Dylan Michaels. So going through the players that have better odds of winning Defensive Player of the Year than Max Crosby. So Max Crosby is second in the NFL in sacks with 9.5. He's a half sack behind Danielle Hunter with the Vikings, but he's at 9.5. He's tied with Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt. Max Crosby leads the league in tackles for loss with 13, and he has 56 tackles. So here's Myles Garrett compared to Max Crosby. Both have 9.5 sacks. Max Crosby, 13 tackles for loss, Myles Garrett, 8. Max Crosby, 56 tackles, Myles Garrett, 25. Just 30 more tackles, 5 more tackles for loss, and the same amount of sacks. And you cannot tell me that Max Crosby is not the focus of the Raiders' defense the way that Myles Garrett is the focus of the Browns' defense. T.J. Watt and Max Crosby both have 9.5 sacks. Max Crosby has 13 tackles for loss. T.J. Watt has 8. T.J. Watt has 22 tackles. That's 34 fewer than Max Crosby. Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons has 7.5 sacks, 2 fewer than Max Crosby. He has 10 tackles for loss, which is 3 fewer than Max Crosby, and he has 31 tackles, which is still 25 tackles away from Max Crosby. Nick Bosa has the same odds as Max Crosby. Nick Bosa has 3 sacks on the season to Max Crosby's 9.5. Nick Bosa has 6 tackles for loss to Max Crosby's 13. Nick Bosa has 22 overall tackles to Max Crosby's 56. And Aiden Hutchinson has better odds than Max Crosby. Aiden Hutchinson has 4.5 sacks, which is 5 less than Max Crosby. Crosby has 13 tackles for loss. Aiden has 4. Crosby, again, 56 tackles. Aiden Hutchinson has 23. So his 13 tackles for loss, the other 5 in this category, 10, 8, 8, 6, 4. He's got 56 tackles. The other 5, 31, 25, 23, 22, 22. I mean, he's got at minimum 25 more tackles than the other guys around him for Defensive Player of the Year. He has been the best defensive player in the league so far, and for whatever reason, he's got the 5th best odds at plus 3,000. Micah Parsons is plus 175, and Max Crosby is plus 3,000. That, I don't know. Maybe some nationally televised games, maybe against the Chiefs on Christmas or something like that, if he has a dynamite game. I don't know. But, you know, he had, what, another 3 sacks, another 3 tackles for loss yesterday, another 5 tackles. Like, he was destroying the other team. He's been doing that.
It's by far my favorite value on DPOI bets for sure. And it's interesting because your point about like the focal point of the defense, obviously Max Crosby is absolutely the focal point of the defense. But I do think, and so many of these awards are narrative driven. Mm-hmm. Myles Garrett has like Jaws music playing when he's on the field.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's something about that and something about how good the Browns defense is. If the Browns make the playoffs, Myles Garrett's probably DPOY. That doesn't mean he was the defensive player of the year, but if they make the playoffs, that probably happens. The other thing, though, is that these are usually kind of second half awards. You can't win Defensive Player of the Year in the first half of the season, but you can lose it. You can play yourself out of it, right?
That's right.
If Max Crosby does, in a little bit of a Raiders rejuvenation, some games that keep them competitive, he's got a defensive interim head coach now and all of that. I don't know if that will really change much, but the vibe seems so much better there that if you told me that Max Crosby was going to be teeing off on quarterbacks the rest of the season for a Raiders team that still isn't very good and certainly not good enough to make the playoffs or whatever, but I could absolutely see that path way easier than I could see it for Fred Warner's kind of a fun one because it would be unconventional, but I could see that way easier than I could see it going to Nick Bosa or Aiden Hutchinson. Chris Jones being there at plus 3,000 as well. He's still in the mix, but I was thinking about that yesterday. He's pretty well simmered out of that conversation for right now, and of course missed week 1, which isn't going to help in the counting stats. But it's a really interesting value, and I think most of the stuff below maybe Fred Warner at plus 3,500. Then you get to Danielle Hunter at 6,000 and Deron Bland at 65. All of that, those don't seem realistic to me. But that little sweet spot of Max Crosby plus 3,000, I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, for Chris Jones, unfortunately for him, like the last 3 games, he's had no sacks, 5 tackles, and 1 tackle for loss in the last 3 games. He is the focal point of the Chiefs defense, obviously. There's some double teams that are taking place. There's some other things that they're going away from Chris Jones. They're, scheming different things. Understandable. They're doing that with these other players as well. And he's the only defensive tackle of that group of Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Aiden Hutchinson, and then Chris Jones. But Chris Jones has 4 less sacks than Max Crosby. He's at 5 tackles for loss, which is 8 away. And then he only has 17 tackles, which is the fewest. But again, he's a defensive tackle. And part of this is also, as you mentioned, it could be PR stuff. It could be like the public, momentum behind some of those things. And could also be like, hey, what's the offense doing and how's this guy making a difference? Like Micah Parsons plus 175. Okay, well, he can line up at defensive end. He could be a linebacker. He can drop in coverage at times. He can do so many different things. What he does to make that Cowboys defense that good. Okay, that's why he's Defensive Player of the Year. His numbers might not be what Crosby's are, but he's used in multiple different ways as a Swiss Army knife, and that's what makes him special, and that's why. Okay, that'd be more eye test and other things going into it than just the counting stats. But the counting stats, tackles for loss is a pretty damn good stat, too.
There hasn't been a real linebacker to win it since Luke Kuechly in 2013. It's been pass rushers every single year except for 2019 when Stephon Gilmore won it with the Patriots. But Bosa, Watt, Donald, Mack, Watt, Kuechly. I skipped over Gilmore there in 2019. But it's almost always the sack getters, if you will.
I still want to talk about some college football.
Oh, yeah.
Mick Schaefer's in Germany, so he won't join us in the 1 o'clock hour. So we got Learn Funniest Best in the second part of the 1 o'clock hour. But I do want to remind everybody that Johnny's Tavern, the area locations for Johnny's Tavern, you get 21% off today for any special or New York specialty pizza. Dine-in only, 21% off at Johnny's Tavern with the Chiefs scoring 21 points. It is the Monday after a Chiefs game, and you can take advantage of Johnny's Tavern special of 21% off. However many points they score, that's the percentage off you get. And it is 21 today, dine-in only, for the New York-style specialty pizza. You get that and that percentage off. 913-912-4810. Now let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk some sporting. We'll talk some college football. We'll get into some of the other things that took place over the weekend. Some more of your texts as well. More Zone next. 5 games this weekend. Kansas City area went 3-2. KU winning in Ames, Chiefs winning in Germany, and Sporting winning in Kansas at home. K-State losing in overtime to Texas, we can get into, and Missouri losing at Georgia, which we can get into as well. But I do want to spend the segment talking about what Sporting has done.
Oh, okay, cool.
And,
there's so many bad, sad vibes in the college football.
No.
This is all
no.
good vibe. Yeah, baby. Give it to me.
The fact they started out 0-7-3, 10 matches without a win, to then scratch and claw and get into the postseason, get into the playoffs as a wild card team, to then host it, to win in penalty kicks, and then to go to St. Louis and dominate, and then come home and be up 2-0 with the Shalloway goal, in what, the 72nd, 73rd minute, whatever it was,
yep.
To go up 2-0, and then, oh, cool, St. Louis gets one back. Ooh, the worst lead to have is 2-0 is the worst lead to have in soccer. I don't know. I'd say leading a team 6-1, and I know aggregate wasn't counting, but I'd say in the 90, 160 minutes of play, being up 6-1, I'd say you're feeling pretty good about how those matches have gone and just the utter dominance that you displayed. And while they had trouble putting the ball in the back of the net in the wild card game, they took advantage of the opportunities that were there against St. Louis. And it is so great and it's so awesome that Sporting and Peter Vermees and the players were able to do that. Because all year long, just the talk about the new kids in town, we're an expansion team and better than Sporting. You guys are writing letters and not selling out. It's half red when St. Louis goes to your town and blah, 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 blah. Ooh, the soccer capital of the world or of the United States. Because back in 1905, we had some guys that played soccer, and that was cool. You know, we got guys on the U.S. men's national team. Awesome. Congrats. Good for you.
Game 3 ought to be sweet. Oh.
You also don't have a win in the playoffs in the MLS. You also don't have an MLS Cup. Oh. And you just now got a damn MLS team. Like, you can't be the soccer capital of anything if you didn't even have a professional team.
They were the soccer capital of Missouri, and I know Sporting plays on the Kansas side.
And what's so great from not all St. Louis residents, is I am not grouping all of them. I am saying the group of the pretentious looking down their nose at Kansas City for decades and decades and decades and decades, whether it be from sports or just getting funding from the state, just looking down the nose and being pretentious peas. That'd be the P and then the R and the I and the C and the whatever.
Not competitive.
Prices.
Pretentious prices.
That's right. Pretentious prices that they've been.
Those pretentious privies.
For them.
A bathroom.
To then, and I know they're not going to do it, but for them to have to be faced with the fact that they are the sports little brother to Kansas City.
Again.
Is so great. Is so great. Kansas City is the center of the most popular sport in America in football. They have won the World Series, the most recent. They've been to 2 World Series since the St. Louis Cardinals have been to one. But yes, the Cardinals have won 2 playoff games since the Royals won the World Series, so they've got that going for them.
That's devastating. It's a good
We've
point.
been to the playoffs a number of times. Oh, that's cool because you went 0-1, 0-2, 0-2, but you did and 4-0 in the championship series So I guess they've won three games, which congratulations. That must feel good for you. But they do have that hockey championship, which is great as the fourth, almost fifth most popular sport in America.
Mm-hmm.
They also have Mizzou in St. Louis, while we've got K-State, KU, and Mizzou in the area with college football and college basketball. It's just, and the better MLS team. And oh, by the way, that whole World Cup thing coming.
Yeah.
And I just love, like,
that's a tough one to get out from under if you're St. Louis.
One of the St. Louis non-truthers about, well, you guys got the World Cup not because of soccer, though. You got it because of the football stadium. Said, oh, that's right. They got it because of what? The football? You understand what you're saying, you jackass? And oh, by the way, you have a football stadium there, too. You could get the World Cup with your football stadium, but you didn't. And now, all summer long, just the yapping about Sporting's writing letters and not showing up and wanting Peter Vermees fired while St. Louis is already better. And you got the number one seed, and you peed down your leg, and you crapped in your pants, and St. Louis just went and punked you and put their boot up your rear end to let you know Kansas City is still Big Brother.
delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock, one more hour to go. We get Learn Funniest Best coming up in the next segment. We talked sporting in the previous segment. We've spent the first 2 hours of the show talking about the Chiefs' win over the Miami Dolphins yesterday morning. And we'll continue talking about that throughout the week as well and things like that. And of course, some continuing with college football. With the weekend coming up as K-State plays at home to Baylor, KU has Texas Tech, and Missouri plays at home against Tennessee. And Missouri, the only dog of the three. Missouri is a 1.5-point underdog to Tennessee, while KU is 3.5-point favorites, and K-State almost 21 against Baylor, which would make sense. The weekend that was, I thought, the K-State game went from feeling like, okay, Texas is just saying, all right, this is different, we're different, to then K-State saying, nah, this ain't happening, and getting back in the game and playing the way that they did and getting the tie, going and forcing overtime. But the way they played in the second half was just fantastic football. I know Malik Murphy made a couple of mistakes. That happens, but you got to force some of those mistakes. There was the fumble, and Kansas State taking advantage of that. Like, they were really good in the second half, showing why they've been a team that's, turned things around as of late. And Will Howard showing that, he had a stretch of football where he wasn't playing great football. But the conversation of Avery Johnson and Will Howard was exaggerated.
Yep.
Was premature of the handing over the reins. And good on Will Howard for making it premature. Because it wasn't just the outside doing that. They switched possessions in that game when it was who's going to start, Will Howard or Avery Johnson. They went possession, and all that has happened since then is Will Howard showing I'm the one that deserves the job, and Avery Johnson, you'll get your chance eventually. It's kind of like what happened with Brady Cook and Sam Horn, only Sam Horn got less of a chance than Avery Johnson did, but Brady Cook has done nothing but prove that he has been a good enough quarterback and the reason and showing the reasons why he was named the quarterback, etc. This game goes into overtime, and you could talk about a lot of things that took place during the game. Being down 17-0, having a chance late in the game to score a touchdown or whatever, and then the extra point and field goals and things that were happening in that game that were just sort of giveaways. The conversation has been a lot about overtime and fourth down and going for it instead of kicking the field goal. This is not second guessing. It was actually first guessing. I wasn't a fan of them going for it on fourth down to go and win the game. I thought at that point, kick the field goal, go into another overtime. You get the ball first. Go score a touchdown, get your defense out there and stop them, which they had been doing against Texas for a while. And he decided, we'll put it all on that particular play to go for the touchdown. I am perfectly fine with a team in overtime getting the second touchdown. If a team scores a touchdown and then you score a touchdown, going for two. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that, depending on how the game has gone. I'm okay with that. If you're the road team, things like that, I'm okay with that. But this was 4th and 4.
That's a huge part of this.
It wasn't you just scored a touchdown, so you showed that you crossed the goal line. There is something mental there between the ears that can go on with the defense that just gave up a touchdown, and then boom, we're going right back at you. As opposed to you got first and goal at the 6, and on 3 plays you gained 2 yards. It didn't make a whole lot of sense at the time. I would have liked him to kick the field goal tie it up at 33 and see what goes on in the next, overtime. But also, they had been such the better team the entire second half. It wasn't a fluke that they were back in the game. They were playing phenomenal defense. They were driving the football. Will Howard was locked in and delivering strikes. Keegan Johnson was awesome in the game, et cetera, et cetera. They had been the better team. Now, maybe he was worried about the field goal unit. Understandable. Because you know what? He might have settled for 3 there and hooked the thing, and we're going, well, they still lost 33-30. Boy, if you can go back, you just go for it on 4th and goal from the 4-yard line. It's an aggressiveness, and I hate the fact that I would look at it and go, boy, I really want you to draw back that aggressiveness, coach. It sucks. But this is where I think the anti-analytic crowd would look at it and go, well, analytics says go for it. No. So you're just going to go for it because analytics always says go for it. Well, I think there's time and a place for everything. And in that one, I would have liked them to kick the field goal, go to another overtime, and see what happens. They were the better team for the final at that point. What was it, 30 minutes plus overtime?
Yeah. I haven't seen what the numbers actually were in that situation. It would not surprise me if the analytical numbers in that spot would say, hey, tie this thing up, you're 4 yards out.
It doesn't matter what the analytics say one way or another. It's just that if you ever go for it on 4th down or 2-point conversion, it's immediately analytics, especially if you don't get it.
Unless you do. If you do get it, it's gutsy. It's a gamble. If you don't get it, it's, analytics, whoever she is, she keeps telling us to keep going for it.
That's right. It's the poor person that's off their kilter, they're crazy. The rich person is eccentric.
It's right. It's always that, and that is frustrating to me on a level that is obvious and hard to explain in further detail. The other part of it, for that sequence at the end, and I maybe this is revisionist, but it's also like it makes you think about Avery Johnson was really good at some of this stuff, and Will Howard. I'm not saying that you got to that he didn't have an incredible stretch to get back in this game. You want to leave the ball in his hands, that's fine, but if you are going to go for it on 4th down, on 4 or less, if that's the plan, don't end the game on 3 pass attempts. Don't have 2nd and goal on the 4. You've got 3 chances to get 4 yards. Yeah. Just go ahead and let that be the philosophical thing that you're working with there, because it to me felt like Will Howard, not only was he not when they're not running plays, it didn't feel like, I can't remember if it was 2nd or 3rd down, but he had a little bit of a seam. I don't know that he scores, but maybe he gets to the 2. Maybe he gets to the 1. Well, if you know you're going for it, again, that's something that you want to get those yards and then give yourself a much, much, much better chance and way more options on 4th and goal from the 2 or the 1 if you end up there. It's a really frustrating, unsatisfying sequence. Even more so, I think, that, and not that this is a good way to do it on what's more satisfying or not, but if you run the ball 3 times there and Texas makes gets 1 play on the boundary, 1 play stuffing you up the gut, and maybe you try a little pass on 4th down that doesn't make it. Okay, well, you feel like you threw the book at him. You really got your best foot out there for one last stand, and you're going to use every inch of your space there to make it happen. Fine. But it just sort of felt like the game came to a bit of a fluttering end, which is a very unsatisfying ending for a team that should be proud of how that game actually went.
Yeah. Now, to Texas' credit, they'd done a pretty strong they'd had a pretty strong game up the middle with a top 5 pick in the draft, top 10 pick in the draft with Sweat and how good he is and just the mass of a human being he is. And earlier in the game on 3rd and 1, they did try to run it, air quotes, but they did it in a run that we all saw coming with Will Howard when Giddens leaves the backfield and Will Howard is alone and it's 3rd and 1 and Texas saw it coming and everybody then crashes down for the quarterback sneak and they get stopped and then Tennant misses the chip shot field goal to tie it up.
Which the game, the fact that the game didn't end in that moment is a testament.
Yeah, the fact that they then get the ball back and drive down and then Tennant hits a 45-yarder to tie the game up. But, I mean, there's less than 2 minutes to go, and it's 3rd and 1. You put a stranglehold on the game if you find a way to pick up that first down. Or if you, I guess, I don't know, would you go for it on 4th and 1 if he doesn't lose a yard and it's 4th and 2 and you kick the field goal? Would you say, you know what, we're going for it again, and if we don't get it, we've got 3 timeouts and Texas is back here. Therefore, if we stop them, we get it at midfield, still an opportunity to kick a field goal. maybe that was the thought process with Chris Kleiman of we're going to run it with Will Howard up the middle, and if he stopped just short, well, then we're still going to go for it again. We're going to run the ball and pick up the first down. He loses a yard. Well, now it's 4th and 2. You know what? Just kick it. Let's tie the game. And you know what? Let's have our defense out there to stop it, and then we'll go kick a field goal to win the game, 33-30. But if you pick up a first down there, you got to it's what at the 7-yard line or whatever, and you got 1st and goal from the 7 with like a minute 50 to play. Doesn't mean you're going to score a touchdown. But at that point, you also didn't want to give the ball back to Texas, so you'd have an opportunity to run the clock down if you're facing like a 3rd and long or something like that. I just felt like they had been playing the better football.
Yeah. And
it sucks because we could be talking about right now, a K-State team that is 7-2, and a Missouri team that's 7-2, and a KU team that's 7-2, and just an improbable season. And K-State still, being discussed for, the Big 12 championship and playing in that Big 12 championship if they were 5-1, because Texas would be 4-2. They'd be tied with Oklahoma State right now at 5-1, and looking at maybe a chance to exact a little revenge in the Big 12 championship game. Still a game against Kansas, etc.
Which is going to be absolutely spectacular.
You should play that one at Arrowhead.
Play that one in Germany.
Let me come on. Play that one at Arrowhead. Let's go. Play it in Germany.
Frankfurt. You guys want this?
They should do that. And I know that KU fans are like, no, don't play that one at Arrowhead.
No, KU fans, I think.
Play that one at Lawrence.
I think would like to keep it where it is.
Yeah, and they don't like the games that were played at Arrowhead when they're big, massive matchups, build-ups throughout the entire season. They wouldn't want another one of those, certainly. But they get this one in Lawrence, so it's going to be a fantastic game, and I can't wait for it. It just felt like a real missed opportunity for Kansas State, especially the way it started. And you're down in Texas, and they were ready for that game. Texas was. This was not Kansas State, and for good measure. There's no way Kansas State's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. It's one thing to say, well, Missouri's not going to sneak up on Georgia because they played so close to them last year. They could sneak up on Georgia. Georgia's won 26 games in a row.
Yeah.
Missouri's a nice story this year, but Georgia's still it's Missouri. Kansas State isn't sneaking up on anybody. You're ready to play against Kansas State because if you're Texas, you're in for a battle for 4 quarters and maybe more. And it turned out to be plus.
With a backup quarterback also, which we haven't really mentioned.
Right.
And that is a factor of it with Malik Murphy that he was the backup. you could see a drop, but also it was a chance for K-State to take that and to do something special with it.
Well, and that's also part of where I thought just kick the field goal because Murphy had not been good the entire second half. Yeah. And then Texas set of downs, they gained 1 yard. It was 2 incomplete passes by Murphy and a 1-yard run and a field goal. Your defense had been just shutting Texas down, it felt like. And Murphy had been struggling with trying to complete easy passes. Like, I don't know, 2 more yards to Xavier Worthy for somebody's single game pro. Like, I don't know.
That's like a random example.
Just a random Xavier Worthy over 50 yards receiving.
Just like somebody.
With multiple other, different totals and props and things like that.
It may or may not have hit.
That's right. But you know what? Now, K-State, nobody's going to feel sorry for them.
Nope.
Move forward, take care of business this weekend, and then you got KU. And still get to, a 9-3 record if you win out if you're K-State, and then, bowl game, another double-digit win season. And then you head into next year, and, now you're talking about the playoff at that point. This game would have felt a whole lot worse if you're a K-State fan if we were talking about the playoffs being here right now, because you might have cost yourself a playoff spot.
That's a great
if you
point.
lost that one.
Yeah.
And they didn't. But next year you might be in that same opportunity. Mizzou goes to Georgia, and I think if the playoffs were still around, I think they'd still have a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah.
If they were to beat Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas the rest of the way and get to 10 wins and be 10-2, and their only losses are to LSU and Georgia.
Yeah.
And close games, too. Final scores not being indicative of how close the games were. The LSU final, pick 6 or whatever.
You're right. They lost these 2 games by 19 combined points.
Yeah, it's like
that's not really how it went.
They were leading in those games in the second
Yeah,
half. Like that is the story of Missouri in big games. Is that it's a close game. They're leading at some point in the second half, and then the final score is double digits because something scored late, and you're like, wow, that they lost by 10 points. Well, they were leading until like 3 minutes to go. Yeah, but they lost
pulled,
by 10.
They pulled the goalie, and they were trying to. It's a whole thing.
That's right. Yes, they pulled the goalie. They were down by a goal, and then they pulled the goalie, and then they just kept the goalie on the sideline or whatever in the box, and then they ended up losing. Eli Drinkwitz is right when he says it's frustrating that they are so close but so far away.
Yeah.
Because you knew you were close there, but ultimately the better team just sort of leans on you, and you can't make enough plays. And a mistake breaks your back. You're down by 6 points with the ball at midfield, 1st and 10, with 6 and change to go in the fourth quarter between the hedges. I mean, sign me up.
Yep.
Every time.
100%.
Sign me up. And you've got a running game and a running back that was really good. And they were picking up chunks of yards. And Georgia hadn't really figured out how to stop that. And Schrader was locked in seeing the lanes, the outside zones, cutting up, breaking tackles. He was really good. And it was one bad mistake. And Brady Cook this year has done a lot to prove that he is worthy of starting as the quarterback. But also the 2 games they've lost, he's thrown a back-breaking interception when Missouri had a chance to take the ball, go down and score and win the game. Interception against LSU when they had the ball, chance to go and win the game. Interception against Georgia, and both of them were bad interceptions. The LSU one was right to the linebacker. This one was journey's over. You know, even him trying to throw it to Norfleet, I mean, there was a guy there. So he was trying to, as he was running, to lob it over the defensive lineman in front of the linebacker that was there. It's just a bad decision. Moral victories suck. They absolutely suck. But I don't think it's terrible for Mizzou to go down to Georgia and to feel like you didn't sneak up on Georgia. You were the number 12 team in America going down there. You were 15-point dogs. You led 13-10 in the second half, and you had the ball with 6 minutes to go, down 6 at midfield, driving for a chance to either cut it to 3 or score and take the lead with your defense that is absolutely legit out there on the field. And by the way, after that interception, the defense gives up, a field goal or whatever. That was backbreaking, obviously, because it makes it 9. But I didn't think there was anything to hang their heads about for Missouri. And it sucks that Brady Cook's season, I hope it, as time passes, depending on what happens against Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, because if they can get to 10 wins, there might be a different field than if they're 7 and 5.
A lot of football left.
7 and 5 would be.
Yeah, it'd be a disaster.
Which is a funny thing that we could have told ourselves before we picked the ZOUs.
But it's weird that expectations can change as the season goes along. But if you're sitting there and say, boy, if they go 7 and 5 now, that's a disaster. When I had them going 6 and 6, but it shows how good they are, what they've done, and now capitalize on how good you've been. Can you bounce back? Where's the leadership, the coaching? Can you bounce back from that loss and go play good football? They bounced back from the LSU loss and went and dominated Kentucky. But that was saying we can still win the East if we take care of business. They can't win the East anymore. So is that still in the mind of you lost to Georgia? Can you still win the East? No. You don't control your own destiny. You can win the next 3 games, but Georgia's going to have to lose twice for that to happen. It's not going to take place, okay? Just not reality. But if they get to 10 wins, as time passes, I hope that the memory of Brady Cook is more of throughout the season rather than the LSU interception and the Georgia interception, which, both were terrible interceptions, bad decisions.
I do. It's a really interesting lens to view it through, and I really do think, and maybe it's because I was not emotionally invested in Mizzou, Georgia, but like with the games remaining and a bowl game of some import, TBD, but hopefully they sweep it out for the rest of the way, and then you're talking about big bowl games. Mm-hmm. Brady Cook has a lot of time to have a legacy drive. It's not going to be in the playoff. It's not going to be in the SEC championship game. But he has a lot of runway left to give you the best moment you've had in a Mizzou uniform in a very, very long time. And like you said, I mean, losing to a good LSU team, then going and getting right against Kentucky, then losing to a great Georgia team and having a chance, not a slam dunk, but a chance to beat Tennessee. That's the SEC. I mean, the SEC for most teams is not, all right, can you knock off one of the big dogs up top? Because the answer is no. The answer is almost unanimously always no, you won't. But you could have a nice little season and then get into a better bowl game because you went through the SEC. We kind of give you that. Mizzou is still very much in the safe to say excellent season is still on the table. And there's absolutely, like you said, absolutely no shame in going down to Georgia and losing. The Devil went down to Georgia and lost.
He was looking for something.
No shame there. He was actually a 3-point dog. It was wild.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I thought he was a favorite.
Hard to find the Devil getting points, but Georgia, I mean, I don't know.
What part of the slate fires you up this weekend? Is it Baylor, Kansas State? Is it Oklahoma State, UCF? Is it Oklahoma, West Virginia? Is it Cincinnati, Houston?
Okay, it's one of those weeks then, huh?
Texas, TCU? Is it Iowa State, BYU? Which game? I mean, Kansas playing Texas Tech is probably the most interesting one of them all, and that's at 11 o'clock in the morning on Fox Sports 1. You get the, oh man, it's a K-State Baylor is on ESPN Plus.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that's how much they. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, look, I mean, I know you're asking about the college games this weekend, but when I have a chance to be fired up about Panthers Bears on Thursday night, Colts Patriots Sunday morning, Jets Raiders Sunday night, and Broncos Bills on Monday night,
woo!
Maybe I don't know if there's a benefit to like intermittent fasting football, but this weekend might be the one to do that. Holy bleep!
That's right. I mean, at least you get a couple of big ones in the SEC: Missouri, Tennessee, and then Georgia and Ole Miss. Let's go, Ole Miss! Come on, 2 losses for Georgia. Let's go.
I'll watch Missouri, Tennessee, and some red zone, and
that's right.
Maybe get some early rest on Thursday and Sunday and Monday night.
We'll take a break. We'll get Learn Funniest Best, but also a couple of quick little nuggets. I hope this isn't anybody's Learn Funniest Best. It could be a learned. It could be the funniest. Certainly wouldn't be the best. The NFL has decided they will not flex the Denver Broncos out of Sunday Night Football next week, so that means the Broncos the next 2 weeks will have Monday night and Sunday night.
Oh yeah!
They have Monday Night Football this upcoming Monday, a week from tonight, and then they have Sunday Night Football, the last game before the Chiefs and Eagles play.
Is that game even worse? Who are they playing in that one? I'll figure it out.
That is a great question.
I think one of these games is somehow even worse. So it's Broncos Vikings Sunday night next week.
Yeah, Broncos are heading to Buffalo for Monday night next week, and then the Broncos play the Vikings at home, the Russell Wilson and Josh Dobbs Bowl.
You know, the Broncos, I don't know if you know this, Jason, but they've actually won 2 in a row.
Have they?
Yeah, they sure have. They beat Jordan Love, and then sort of the Jordan Love of the AFC, as they've been calling him.
Doesn't show. It's interesting.
I hate that I said that even as a joke.
I just wonder, like, do Chiefs and Packers get flexed out of Sunday Night Football?
Man, I haven't even thought about future prime time. They're not
49ers Eagles is a 3:25 Fox game.
Oh, so can each network can protect the game, right? I know CBS can. I imagine that both networks can.
I'm not sure like what the other game, Seahawks Cowboys might be an interesting one.
Well, if you get the Cowboys,
well, now that's Thursday Night Football. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking at the games that week.
Oh, brother, I forgot about the Pack. Oh, the Patriots game is on Monday night too. I forgot about that.
Yep. But boy, that Eagles-49ers Eagles-49ers game would be delicious, tasty if that was a nationally televised game. But I'll take the Chiefs on national television. You like Chiefs Sunday Night Football, right? You love night games, right? You're a big fan.
I like what it lets me do from noon to 7, which is to watch football. I will see more of, you said it's Niners-Eagles, right?
Yeah, Niners at Philadelphia.
I'll see more Niners-Eagles if it kicks off at 3:25 and the Chiefs play Sunday night than I would in the inverse.
That's true.
But look, if I had it my way, the Chiefs would play every single week, either on Thursday night or Sunday morning, because that was fine with me.
Sunday morning was interesting. It just felt like the noon games. It was 3:25. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't the 3:30 slate. This is great.
I got home just in time to watch a lot of the afternoon slate of games, which was not what I had envisioned necessarily, but we made it work.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Who's getting the ring?
Arches down! down.
Yes.
It's got to be Sporting. Look, the Chiefs went to Germany and handled their business. I talk about the Chiefs defense all the time, but Sporting Kansas City is who gets the ring, brought to you by Ruback Fine Jewelry. Once you've been to Ruback one time, you'll be a customer for life. You can call or text Hal today about scheduling your appointment. You can text or call at 913-649-8811 or visit their website at ruback.co. Plus, they got a brand new location in downtown Overland Park, now open. Again, check all that out online at ruback.co. But hopefully envisioning a championship leading that way for a Sporting team that's not going to play for a while, by the way. Don't be alarmed. It will be bit before they take the pitch again. But sweeping St. Louis out, being able to have that victory at home, everything. It is a perfect revenge, not even game, revenge series, I suppose. And really just a beautiful thing to be able to access a pro sports rivalry that feels that kind of ferocious. I got to say, shout out to St. Louis City. I really appreciate all of the bleep talk because it set the stage for a beautiful playoff choke job by St. Louis and an absolute incredible turnaround. So Sporting absolutely gets the ring today, presented by Ruback Fine Jewelry.
All right, we'll take a timeout. Learn Funniest Best coming up next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. Let's get some learn funniest best going in here. We go around the room / the control room, and what we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, best from the weekend. Look forward to a mix on Wednesday.
Cool.
What
Good.
his learn funniest best would be from the trip to Germany, not just over the weekend, but what took place while he was in Germany. Just an overall LFB for him. All right, what I learned this weekend, I had a couple learns, but what I learned this weekend is that there really is not a line low enough for an Iowa football game for it to hit the over. This one people had fun with because the total was 31.5 before the game started. 31.5. And with 2 minutes to go in the game, 7 points had been scored. With 2 minutes to play.
So good.
It was 0-0 at half. 7-0 Iowa with 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. And then with 1:55 to play, Northwestern scored a touchdown to tie it at 7. And then in the most shocking turn of events is that a minute and a half later, Iowa put 3 points on the board. The most shocking part of that was that Iowa kicked a field goal in just a minute and a half of football.
An offensive explosion.
That's exactly right. They scored 10 points in a minute 55.
I mean,
it's not something that typically happens.
Are Iowa fans okay? Like, does anybody need just medical attention just from the pure shock?
They scored a total of 17 points. The total was 31, the lowest total we've seen in ages, and they were still 2 touchdowns away from getting there.
And again, not ever threatening that.
Yeah.
At all. A
Never
scoreless half.
Threatening
Incredible.
the 31.5, and also learned how much the Raiders hated Josh McDaniels. So there you go. But you've got learned funniest best parts of that too, Josh. What'd you learn?
I have a couple learned candidates. One of them stinks though, so I don't mean to make you sad. But PFF George tweeted this out, and it's the PFF grades on Patrick Mahomes' deep throws of 20 yards or more. In 2020, he was grading at 90.9 with 13 touchdowns and 5 picks.
I'm going to write these down.
In 2021, he was grading at 91.8, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks. 2022, 93.3, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. So far this year, 66.7, 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions. Not all of those are created equal. But I learned that this year, that our eyes are not fooling us. Also, if you've seen the Tua and Mahomes passing charts, like the Next Gen Stats passing charts, if you took the names off of them and showed me those passing charts a year ago, I would have 1,000% gotten them wrong about who was who.
Well, yeah, because, that totally makes sense with Tua throwing it deep to Tyreek and Waddle, and the Chiefs having a lot of underneath throws, taking what's given to you.
It wasn't bombs away for Tua, to be clear, but it was more aggressive than Mahomes' sort of spray chart
for sure.
was.
It's been way more bombs away this overall year for Tua than Mahomes. Yes. The game on Sunday wasn't bombs away.
Right.
But they did have the longest air yards touchdown that the Chiefs have given up this year, was the 31 yards to Cedric Wilson.
That's unreal.
It's the first time the Chiefs have given up a touchdown of more than 20 air yards. And it was really good coverage by McDuffie.
Yep.
he was there. He had it covered. It's a good throw by Tua to place it where it is. And I had mentioned that Cedric Wilson might be a problem just because of how big he is, that those back shoulder throws and things like that. He's good with the jump balls. And good for him. They connected on that. You weren't going to shut out the Dolphins, although you thought maybe a chance at halftime. What'd you learn this weekend, Dylan?
I, along with a lot of people, learned that C.J. Stroud is going to be around for a long time. He had a second half alone here on the stat line. 16 of 20, 325, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a perfect passer rating of 158. That's going to be tough in that division, which is funny because they are, year-round the worst one on the AFC side, but now they have Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, and if you like Will Levis, there's another one. Maybe
Will Levis. That's interesting. Boy, he was phenomenal, and I wish I would have been more bullish on him in that game because I had a single game parlay with because people care about bets.
I
fantasy.
care a lot. Yeah.
With C.J. Stroud over 1.5 touchdowns. Amazing, right? Over 20 and a half completions, over 30 and a half attempts, over 245 yards passing.
I think you squeaked by those.
Just because, like, the Bucs are terrible against opposing quarterbacks. And I'm like, I'm taking the over on everything. I'm doing the opposite of Damon Amendolara with under with the Jets. I'm taking everything offensively under with the Jets. I'm taking the over on everything, C.J. Stroud. And I wish I'd have been more bullish and taken alternative lines with that. Alternate passing yards, alternate touchdowns, whatever it might be, because he was unbelievable in that game. And you got to be shaking if you're in Carolina. Yeah. You got to be really nervous of giving up those draft picks to move ahead and maybe make the wrong choice.
Oh, they moved up so far, too.
Yeah.
It's almost like letting a guy whose team was gambling against the team pick a franchise quarterback wasn't really... like you said, the Raiders hated Josh McDaniels. I think the Colts didn't like Frank Reich yesterday. By
They let him, yeah. I misread that one, by the way. I had the... Panthers keeping it closer because I'm like, oh, it's Frank Reich revenge game.
Revenge game.
Yeah.
No, yeah, same. But maybe it was revenge for the Colts.
Revenge
exactly
for
right.
who?
Yes, revenge, a dish best served to a 2-touchdown loss.
By a man with some glorious hair and some questionable facial hair.
That's right. The funniest for you from the weekend, Josh?
You know, it's not often that a news report is the funniest thing that I experience in a given weekend, but it's not usually that Jay Glazer goes to television to break down how it was an airing of grievances that ultimately tore the Las Vegas Raiders apart.
There was such a big disconnect with the players there and Josh McDaniels that players recently were going upstairs to the owner, Mark Davis, to tell them what their problems were. However, the big thing was last Thursday, there was this big airing of the grievance meeting, and players just unloaded on Josh McDaniels, from captain to player to player. And finally, Josh McDaniels actually had Antonio Pierce get up and speak on behalf of him and the coaches. When Antonio Pierce got up there, he said, look, guys, we have to have our own culture. It's got to be about culture here, and we also have to look at it. And he brought up the old Giants team that beat the Patriots, Josh McDaniels' team, in the Super Bowl in 2007 season. He said, no matter who we played, we thought we could beat them. We had a game plan that we could beat them. We had to believe that, and that's not here. We have to believe it here at the Raiders. We could beat anybody. Well, he finishes up that speech. Everybody thinks they're great, except for Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels then goes over to him and says, don't ever talk about the Patriots like that. And then you really saw how divided that building got. That got up to Mark Davis, and I think Mark Davis looked at it and go, okay, I'm going to choose the guy who believes that we can win every single week.
That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. One, that maybe Josh McDaniels cares more about the Patriots than he does the Raiders.
He does.
But also, imagine just the, I don't know if it's a curb scene. I don't know what sort of, I don't know if it's an all never sunny in Las Vegas, but imagine it is just dudes going off on Josh McDaniels. Ultimately, it's all right. Well, hey, let's let Antonio talk. Antonio, you tell everybody how great I am. Hey, listen, this guy brought me in here. We believe in ourselves, much like those Giants teams that I was on. We believe in we're going up against the Patriots. Whoa! No! Don't keep the Patriots name out your mouth. Sorry. Yeah. No. Anyway, so what I was saying, Josh McDaniels. You want the guy who was just talking? You want him to be he's the head coach now? I'm fired. Me and the offensive coordinator and Jimmy Garoppolo. GM too. I'll be seeing you.
Just the fact that we need our own identity here, and then
as a team who believes. That's right. All. Just believes.
We need our own identity, our own identity, our own identity. And then gives an example, and the head coach saying, "Don't say that about the Patriots."
Hey.
Oh wait, I guess we don't have our own identity because this guy won't let go of Bill Belichick and the aura around him. Like, dude, you're with the Raiders now. You're not with the Patriots, dude. It's your ex-girlfriend. You left.
And he's done this before. It's not his first rodeo.
Yeah. It should be his last, but we'll see.
It definitely should be his last.
We'll see.
I would love to know the shock of Antonio when the first conversation was, hey, man, can you go up there and kind of stick up for me a little bit? To, hey, can I speak to you over here for a second?
Yeah, come here. I couldn't help but notice you calling me Ukwinsa Orcha. That's how they know you. You won't get that one either.
No, I didn't. I'm now imagining the next conversation, which is Mark Davis going to Antonio Pierce and saying, hey, man, I know it's been a crazy day for you, but good news.
Good news, bad news. Bad news, I'm going to have to fire the head coach. Good news, you're the head coach.
Good news, you just gave one of the best speeches of all time. It got you a job
Yes.
and another guy fired.
That's right. And I think you guys can go out there and win against the Giants. Go beat them by 24 points and show me what you're made of. That's awesome. Funniest for you, Dylan.
The funniest is another visual one, but if you haven't seen it, you are not a part of the 9.6 million people as of currently that have seen this tweet of a Eagles coach getting knocked over and standing up. And, it's happened. Many plumbers experience this, but the pants don't come up at the same time when you stand up, and there was a red undergarment with a lot of skin showing and not a lot of qualities of boxers or briefs.
Yeah, it's something that Cisco may have
Yes.
written and performed a song about.
Absolutely.
Look, man, the Eagles keep winning, so.
There are some questions that are going to be asked, and I don't know if they're answered or not by him, but there will be some questions to him, that's for sure.
Maybe Matt Nagy should ask him where he got him. It's working for Philly.
I mean, it's just like, is it something to where the guy, 3 years ago, it was a prank, and all of a sudden they played their best game, and he's like, sorry, every game. Sorry, every game, this is what I do. I don't care. People made fun of me all the time. Don't care. Now the whole world's seeing it. Too bad. It's what I do every single game.
Great news. I made a really risky Google choice and just Googled Jason Giambi thong, but it paid off.
Oh, good for you.
This is a real story about his magic gold thong.
Yeah,
I don't know why that story has stuck. I mean, I do know why. It's because I've never heard anything else quite like it. Maybe the Chiefs just need a magic gold underwear.
The funniest for me from the weekend, we'll get into the best, but the funniest for me from the weekend, there was a lot of funny things, but I don't know why this one stuck with me. Maybe it's just because Lane Kiffin really likes to troll. I mean, and he does it so well, and he does it so subtly that, he's trolling, he's throwing shade, but it's kind of just under the radar a little bit. I don't know. So game day was in Tuscaloosa on Saturday morning for Alabama and LSU. So it was there in Tuscaloosa. Ole Miss had a big game against Texas A&M. And so they interview Lane Kiffin live from, I believe it was a home game for Ole Miss. So they were down there. He was on the field. They got the camera. He's got the microphone, right? And he's talking to the game day guys. They're talking about, blah, 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 blah. He ends it with, "Go Tigers." And the crowd starts booing, and it's just it just stuck with me as the funniest thing from the weekend because it's what he has done for a while and continues to try to needle Alabama and Nick Saban over and over again. And then he talked about rat poison during the interview and things like that, and then ends it with the fact that they're in Tuscaloosa, says, "Go Tigers."
So good.
I don't know, what was my funniest from the weekend. What was the best for you, Dylan?
The best for me was just Josh Dobbs' week as a whole, from being basically ran out of the building in Arizona to, if you saw the visual of him learning cadences on the sideline, you wouldn't guess that he ends up with the game ball. So that's probably the best for me.
Yeah.
And that's why, because he seems like a good dude.
Easy best for me. Little man turns 8 years old today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Everett's
Happy birthday,
birthday today. He turns 8 somehow. He is 8 years old, which means he's grounded for another 6 months.
Good.
Because I told him last year, if you turn 7, you're grounded for 6 months. You turn 8, you're grounded for 6 months. Then figure it out, and, next year you turn 9, another 6 months. You're going to have to figure out.
Grounded for a year next time.
Yeah, how about learn? How about learn from
that?
your mistakes, man? But no, happy birthday to a little man. 8 years old today. My best from the weekend. That was an easy one. His birthday's actually today. Family came over yesterday. Then just the four of us hanging out today. Then he'll have a birthday with the friends on Saturday. So this man gets to open up 3 different times. So good for him. But yeah, that's the best from the weekend. Josh, your best?
Get as many birthdays as you can, man.
Absolutely.
That's the way to do it. It's not exotic, but the strip 6 of Tyreek Hill having a chance to make a play, Trip McDuffie being the one who makes that play, the scoop from Mike Edwards, the absolute video game stuff of lateraling it to Brian Cook, just like you said, anchoring the 4x1 down the sideline, an incredible moment and a really great snapshot and a signature moment, I think, for this Chiefs defense. I just love football when it's played like that.
And a pause of Trent McDuffie tackling Tyreek Hill, and the trade that was made that was so controversial, and the number of draft picks they got and numbers they threw at different things for so many parts of that, for it to be McDuffie stripping it, for it to be Brian Cook getting the lateral, for it to be Joshua Williams laying the block on Tyreek Hill. so that Brian Cook can then get around the corner and run up the sideline. Like those, you're talking about 3 guys who were drafted in that draft where they were sort of throwing numbers at the secondary because that's what they wanted to address. Without Tyreek Hill, we need to become a better 53-man roster overall. Let's get deeper at certain places. And that secondary they got deeper at. It was just serendipitous how that whole thing worked out. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will wrap up the show coming up next. 913-912-4810. It's pretty funny. Text says, let's not talk single game parlays, okay? For 5 weeks, I've bet KC defense anytime touchdown until yesterday.
Oh!
I'm not laughing at you. We're all laughing with the pain. Like, that sucks. We've all been there. Man. Yeah, you get the it took me like 4 weeks into the season before I just stopped betting the over Patrick Mahomes 2.5 touchdowns. Because last year it was just a weekly, if I was getting plus odds with Mahomes over 2.5, I'd place money on it. Mahomes over 2.5, place money on it. I stopped doing that about week 4. I'm like, until I can see that this is going to be somewhat consistent, I'm not going to do that. And what was week 5, the Chicago Bears?
I think so.
I think one of them was like, oh, of course.
And then he had it against the Chargers, right? But I don't know if there's been like a consistent winner for anything Chiefs related other than maybe defense points allowed under or something. I don't know. That's kind of niche.
Well, until yesterday, Rashee Rice's total, I didn't feel like Vegas was catching up to the total because he had 50, 60, 70, 50, and they were consistently in the 40s. So I'm like, I'm putting money on that every time. And I felt good after the first drive. A quick little 11 yards.
There's a reason you don't do the thing where you say, well, if you took all your winnings and then bet it all the next week.
Yes.
I would not advise that.
Text says, oh, you mean like Patrick Mahomes over 229 yards yesterday? Ridiculous. Yeah, I had a lot of the overs with the Chiefs offense yesterday.
Whoops.
It's all right. And I accidentally clicked the wrong with the total, the over-under, so. Why can't they just listen to my whole show saying, take the under, take the under, take the under? We'll see the program next. KU pregame at 5:30.